Part 26. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 251. An Author's Confession. It has been 3 months since I wrote this book, and this is the first time I have published a single chapter. In fact, this book is my first book at Kidian. The early writing was not good and the data is also very poor. On the day it was put on the shelves, the first order was less than 400. This is a figure that most authors cannot tolerate. It is possible to cut it off directly on the same day. However, I maintain a minimum of 8,000 words a day and have persisted until now. The results are just so-so. The high-end order has exceeded 10,000, the average order is more than 4,000, and soon it will be 5,000. When it was put on the shelves, I directly told the follow-up plot outline. I originally thought that people would not subscribe in the future. When the subscriptions were only in single digits, I could naturally drop the eunuch and no one would care. As a result, I already said that Jo Ran would become the first female protagonist next, and the plot could be imagined, but some people subscribed, and more people subscribed. To be honest, I really didn't want to write at that time. After all, it only cost 3 to 5,000 yuan a month. Later, I followed the recommendation given by the website and subscribed more. I can only try to update. In fact, I write some scripts, and combined with some previous income, the monthly manuscript fee is quite stable. For this book, I write the most every day and my income is the lowest. I'm really grateful to the parents who supported this book from the beginning. If it weren't for you, this book would only have 500,000 words at most, even if it hadn't been aborted, because I'm really handicapped. With a guarantee of 8,000 words, I have to sit in front of the computer for about 10 hours every day. This book has not been updated continuously. Since it was put on the shelves, except for the day before yesterday, which only updated 7,600 words, the rest of the books have been updated at 8,000 words every day. Regarding the extra update, there were originally 4 chapters missing, and then yesterday who loves reading directly gave a reward of 100 yuan, and then. When I first set up the extra update system, it was mainly to set up a flag for myself, but I failed to do it. In fact, it can be considered to a certain extent. After all, the chapters I added are 4,000 words, and the default update at the starting point is 2,000 words. This month I added 20,000 words, and the chapters I owe are 5 chapters for monthly tickets and 4 chapters for rewards. Yesterday's sudden reward of 100 yuan doesn't count. Posting this single chapter, on the one hand, I want to chat with everyone, and on the other hand, I want to ask for everyone's understanding. Set up another flag, and this month I will pay back the 4 chapters I owed last month, and then everyone will stop giving rewards. He who loves reading the 100 yuan has already been added to this month's rewards. It's full. After all, 10 yuan adds 1 chapter, and 200 monthly tickets add 1 chapter. It's a bonus in itself. If there were no restrictions, even if I smoked the keyboard, I wouldn't be able to keep up with the added data. In the next month, I will continue as always, with a minimum of 8,000 words of updates every day. I won't ask for leave, won't get sick, and won't go out for parties. Let me give you one more tip. An author who owes 14 chapters. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 252. On Sunday, Li Yuan called Yu. Because Qingtian Group is about to enter the lithium carbonate industry. Although I invested in Ningco Limited will not easily change suppliers at this time, so this company currently has no customers. Of course, there are no raw materials. The contract was signed, but it will take until June to get the raw materials belonging to Oriental Lithium Energy. That afternoon, he found Song Jiajia again, took a few photos at random, and asked Jushin Media's operation account to send them out. Song's shares had risen a bit during the new year. Seeing that the date of lifting the ban was approaching, the stock price had fallen back a bit, and he had to pull it up again. Of course, the most important thing to find Song Jia this time was other things. Jushin Media has taken the lead and has almost no rivals in the entire traffic market. Even if Wen Yuxian terminates the contract and Lu Hao leaves, tens of millions of internet celebrities still have Gu Dongsheng and the twin brothers Yang in their hands. These are not the most important. The main strength is between 5 million and 10 million. After all, there are only a small number of tens of millions of fans, and the entire Douyin platform only has 40 fans in total. Jushin Media is working on multiple platforms. Which platform wants to be exclusive? Well, give me money. Song Jia is currently leading the self-media layout in the north, because one winter, northern internet celebrities went crazy. Unique environment, ice and snow. Unique customs, stocking up, low cost of living, traveling to the mountains. They are all deeply stimulating everyone's visual nerves. These elements are still childhood memories for many people. Song Jia's strategic vision is very good. She found that this type of content can attract enough traffic, and immediately started the layout. Gu Dongsheng has been reported too much recently, and the platform can no longer sustain it. It just so happens that the live broadcast permission has been opened recently, allowing him to start bringing goods. Well, take it. In this regard, Li Yuan won't care too much. Gu Dongsheng wants to create profits for Jushin Media, so the process of bringing goods will inevitably be a little sideways. For example, if you bring some jewelry and use the most rubbish Hishan jade as seed material, many cheap jade can also issue a Hishan jade certificate. For example, a gold-plated copper block is said to be a gold bar. Anyway, as long as you don't mention the content and sell it at a premium of 2 or 3 times, you won't be afraid of someone reporting it. Or make an agreement with the manufacturer that he will get the goods at the lowest price and will not allow anyone to sell them higher than him. Even if 3 yuan is sold for 300 yuan, it is not illegal. No one cares. Even in a few years, live streaming will still be full of routines. It is not uncommon for manufacturers and anchors to work together to deceive users. The official flagship store's products are always more expensive than the ones sold by the anchors, and all of them have long since given up. But for any product like this, just block it. There must be some ulterior agreement behind it, and the price must be inflated. For example, a bag of snail noodles is sold at the official flagship store for 11 yuan. A major anchor sells it for 9 yuan a bag and also gives 2 bags as a gift, which is an average of 7 yuan. The difference between the inside and outside is 40%, which shows that the cost is very low, and the price to the anchor may be less than 5 yuan. If we can give this kind of discount to anchors, why can't we give it to users? Taking advantage of users. It is true that anchors can ship in large quantities, but this profit can be provided in other ways. In this way, Chun treats users who buy from the official flagship store as fools and joins forces with anchors to harvest users. The quality of products that treat their own brand as a joke is not much better, and they may run away after making a lot of money. You can't have a conscience when you're in the business of carrying goods. Li Yuan is not a good person, but he can't earn that kind of money now. But Jushin Media needs it, otherwise the meaning of cultivating anchors will be lost. Now you can hang links in the live broadcast room. Do you need to hang Bixin's link? Bixin's recent traffic growth rate is very average. Okay. Open a mall section on Bixin, and then build a warehouse in Zhangzhou to facilitate centralized delivery. Previously, there were only 3 sections on the home page of Bixin, namely companionship, information, and mine. But it will soon be changed to 5, adding shopping malls and plazas. At present, the short video platform does not have its own mall, so even if you bring goods, it is not a transaction completed on the short video platform and needs to be connected to a specialized shopping platform. This is also an opportunity this year. After the mall comes out next year, there will be no such good traffic channels. For example, a certain terminal was not operating well during this period and began to sell fake goods crazily. It contacted a group of anchors in the north of the United States on the short video platform to promote and sell fake goods. In the end, things got serious, and the platform simply refused to ship the goods and refunded the goods in the same way, otherwise the matter would not have ended so well. Then what else do you want from me? It's also about Bixen. The user group of Bixen is relatively younger. However, the current entertainment quality is not strong enough. It is just a single project of playing together, and the entertainment elements need to be richer. In Li Yuan's view, accompaniment is certainly a good industry, but it is a niche industry after all. When he acquired Bixen, he valued Bixen's current user ecosystem. With this kind of user ecology, it would be a waste not to do entertainment. You should discuss it with Mr. Yu of the group. Qingtian Group will set up an AI department under its name. It will focus on AI large language models and AI painting to provide content assistance for Bixen. In the short term, the main focus will be on companionship, with the mall as a supplement. However, the AI model needs to be provided with data support by Bixen. The two parties will cooperate and the funds will be provided by the head office. AI is the next mainstream trend and can generate a market value of trillions. In particular, many AI painting tools will be able to directly generate videos in 2023. The generated pictures are almost perfect except for insufficient finger details. The video is still lacking. If it wants to be good enough, it must be given more detailed instructions and combined with post-processing. But in the future, as long as the picture in the brain can be drawn, it will not be difficult to generate it through AI. In other words, if one has creative ability, it is not a problem for one person to make a big movie. You can even buy some character portrait rights at that time, and you don't need to rely on two-dimensional images. As long as the foundation is established, Li Yuan will collect relevant data across the country and even the world to improve the algorithm model. Song Jiajia said, "I don't know much about technology. Just ask me when the time comes. I will grasp the general direction and you will be responsible for the specific implementation." Okay. Then I'll leave first. I'm a little sleepy. Let's go back and take a nap. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he stood up and left. Song Jiajia hasn't even reacted yet. It was not easy for him to meet Li Yuan just once, and his father had repeatedly asked him to treat Li Yuan to a meal. Originally, based on the way she had gotten along with Li Yuan before, she thought this kind of thing was a minor problem. But suddenly, she felt something was wrong. She sent a message to Li Yuan and asked, "Are you free tomorrow? I have paid my salary and I want to treat you to a meal." Her salary is comparable to that of Vice President Xin, which is currently 840,000 yuan a year. "Let's rest and recuperate tomorrow. I'll treat you when I'm free later." Li Yuan refused. Song Jiajia. If you refuse, just refuse. Now you are not even willing to call me senior. Li Yuan's former senior sister's name was so sweet. Sure enough, if you can't be lovers, you can't even be friends. She felt that she didn't agree to Li Yuan last time, and now Li Yuan was angry. After Li Yuan got home, he went to the bedroom to rest. In the past, he was willing to coax Song Jiajia because Song Jiajia didn't get paid, which was regarded as unfair employment. Now that he has received a salary, which is far higher than what a fresh graduate should receive, he has nothing to owe Song Jiajia in terms of work, so the relationship is naturally different. When I woke up, it was already past 10 o'clock at night. He got up, had something to eat, and then went to the study to start recuperating. He could continue to sleep, but he wouldn't be able to sleep tomorrow night. Tomorrow is very important. The result of the game on the board will affect his income this time, and he must watch it from beginning to end. Just when he picked up his phone, he saw that Joe Ran had sent him a message at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The content of the message was simple: Lu Hao was caught. He replied, "I just woke up, are you asleep?" As soon as the message was sent, Joe Ran called. After getting through, Li Yuan asked, "Sister Ran, what's going on?" "Rape." Li Yuan. If Mozi had such courage, he wouldn't have had a girlfriend before. He's not that kind of person at all. Joe Ran said, "I don't know the details, and it happened several days ago. I only found out today when Aunt Ziozi came back to me crying." "What is the specific situation?" Aunt Ziozi is Lu Hao's mother. Lu Hao's family left the county after the Chinese New Year. After all, the family has money. Aunt Ziozi's family went to meet the woman's family, and the two parties discussed the engagement. Isn't this a good thing? His whole family is crazy about getting married. Although Mouse is young, getting engaged will have no impact. Many people in the countryside get married at the age of 18 or 19, and even the children cannot register with the husband until they are 3 or 4 years old. I don't know what happened to Mouse. He had a fight with the woman on the night of the engagement, and then the woman sued him for rape. Is this thing useful? So many people know that the relationship between the two of them is boyfriend and girlfriend. Besides, aren't they both engaged? Aunt Ziozi said that the woman's family set up a trap for Huzi. The woman's mother specially kept the recording, and in the recording, she guided Huzi to say the words of rape. Then what? Then Huzi was arrested? We don't know what happened yet, and I'm too lazy to move today. Li Yuan hurriedly said, "Just rest at home, I will come to ask about the situation tomorrow. Then you, work hard. It's okay. You need to rest first. Don't worry. I will definitely solve the problem faster than you." Li Yuan knew that Joe Ran cared more about Lu Hao. Although he had no time, Joe Ran was about to give birth and could only take over the matter. The matter is definitely not as simple as Joe Ran said. Even if there is any evidence for this kind of thing, mediation will be the main thing. How is it possible to arrest people directly? He sighed and came to the bedroom. Zhang Yuling is not asleep yet. When Zhang Yuling saw Li Yuan come in, he immediately lifted the quilt and said, "Well, come on." Li Yuan sat next to him and said, "I'm here to come to you for help. In your name, I will send a message to Ho Wenbin and the others to help investigate a matter named Lu Hao. He should be detained now. That woman is in Zhangzhou, and Lu Hao also bought his house here." Zhang Yuling knew Lu Hao and was surprised when he heard this. Why was he detained? What did he do? Isn't this just asking you to find someone to ask? I don't know the details. Just send a message and ask them to investigate what happened, and then contact me directly. Since the last time, Ho Wenbin and his team had no chance to interact, so this time it was official. Oh, that's good. Zhang Yuling immediately called Ho Wenbin, and after explaining a few words, he put down the phone. He said to ask now and he will get back to you in 2 hours at most. Okay, then I'll go to the study and wait. You go to bed quickly. Li Yuan helped Zhang Yuling press the quilt. As a result, Zhang Yuling grabbed his hand and said, "Just stay here with me. I just woke up. I have to answer the phone later, which will affect your rest. But if you sleep with someone else, it will affect my rest even more." Li Yuan. Phew, come on. Li Yuan got under the quilt, and Zhang Yuling quickly leaned on his shoulder. Li Yuan waited for a while and found that Zhang Yuling had no intention of sleeping, so he asked, "Why are you trying to cling to me today?" "I don't know, I just want to spend some time with you." "Is it such an exaggeration? We already have this relationship, and you are still worried about me leaving." Worry about your heart wandering. Zhang Yuling suddenly said sentimentally, I will eventually lose everyone. In the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, in the next 30 years, by that time, I am afraid I will be alone again. She didn't realize this before, but recently she discovered that Li Yuan hadn't left the community at all, and she suddenly realized that she hadn't been with Li Yuan for a long time. Although she enjoyed the feeling of getting along with her elders, they could not stay with her forever. She couldn't expect her child to stay with her for a long time. The child would have his own affairs when he grew up. Only Li Yuan is the only person who can accompany her for the rest of her life. Then when the child gets married, we will still have in-laws, so we won't be alone. How about you? Have I not always been there? But you weren't here a few days ago. As he spoke, Zhang Yuling threw himself into Li Yuan's arms and shed tears. I'm really working. If you don't believe me, you can go over and have a look tomorrow night. I don't go. Then you are thinking wildly again. No, I'm not thinking about you. I just don't feel safe. I've been very panicked these past few days. I'm afraid that one day you won't come home anymore. Li Yuan hugged Zhang Yuling's shoulders and said, why don't I go home? Because you would be more comfortable living somewhere else. When working, it is naturally more convenient to be in the company. Similarly, when living, it is most comfortable at home. Then other homes can't do it. Without you, can any other place be considered a home? Times have changed, and we are no longer allowed to marry concubines. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 253. No matter what, Zhang Yuling believed it. After waiting for more than an hour, Ho Wenbin called Li Yuan. When Li Yuan was about to pick up the phone, he found that Zhang Yuling would not let go. I need to answer the phone. It's the same as picking up here. I'm not asleep. You. Hey, let me smell your scent and feel more at ease. Li Yuan had no choice but to answer the phone first. After the call was connected, both parties exchanged a few words with each other, and then Li Yuan got to the point. Ho Wenbin also told Li Yuan the results of his investigation. Lu Hao was indeed arrested because someone accused him of rape. At the same time, there is currently evidence to prove this. When Lu Hao was chatting with the woman's mother, he admitted this under the strong attitude of the woman's mother. After the woman called the police station that heard the whole incident for the first time still focused on mediation, and the woman also said she was willing to accept mediation. But Lu Hao's parents quit. They felt that the woman was cheating and demanded that they get back the gift they had given in advance when they got engaged. After Li Yuan listened, he basically understood. It is certain that Lu Hao was set up. I guess he felt that no more value could be extracted from Lu Hao. The only valuable thing about Lu Hao now is that the richest man has become a child. But Li Yuan didn't want to see that woman, so no matter how petty the woman was, Lu Hao just wouldn't bring her over. As time went by, the woman who had no expectations for Lu Hao began to think of getting rid of Lu Hao. He also had a copy of Lu Hao's confession, which meant that on the night of the engagement, he said he wanted a child, but the woman did not agree. In the end, he drank some wine and acted impulsively. In the final analysis, it is just a matter of condom. Lu Hao felt that he had spent millions to get engaged and millions to buy a house. Now, even if they are not married, they are no different from husband and wife. It's time to have a baby, so I don't want to wear it anymore. But Lu Hao's parents also contributed a lot to the matter getting to this point. Putting one thing into another, insisting on mixing two things together is simply making fun of his son's life. Even if the other party is willing to accept mediation on the premise that the betrothal gift will not be returned, it will only be a loss of several million. What is lost now cannot be made up for by millions. The fact that Lu Hao can be taken away shows that the current evidence is enough to confirm his crime. Now Aunt Xiaozi knows that she is crying and coming back to beg for help. Li Yuan lowered his head and glanced at Zhang Yuling, who seemed to be asleep. But it's not convenient for him to move now. After waiting for a while, he also fell asleep. On Monday morning, I called Zhou Ranran first and told Zhou Ranran the whole thing, and then he ignored it. You can take action, but not now. That woman was probably not the biggest pusher behind the whole thing, because he took a look at Lu Hao's new account and saw that the number of followers could not be increased. The last video only had a measly 8,000 likes. Previously, each video had hundreds of thousands of likes. This shows that the company bought data for Lu Hao, but the result was not as expected. After all, it cost 300 million in default fees and 100 million in signing fees over 3 years, which may be the entire property of that company. I paid all my fortune to sign Lu Hao, but I failed to tailor video content for Lu Hao. Apart from buying data, everything else was very amateurish. They want to cut their losses. Li Yuan decided to wait until they jumped out. Lu Hao's parents will not learn a lesson if they go to solve the problem now. Anchors make a lot of money, or after making a fortune, they can endure mediocrity and dawdle in the future. In the past, it was tens of millions a year, but in the future, 1 or 2 million a year is not a big problem. But most people can't stand this. Either they have enough strength to stand up and make capital, but most people don't have this strength. The most common thing is to change jobs, change companies, and sign big contracts. Big contracts offer more money, which also means more terms. Lu Hao's contract is still being monitored by Zhoushan Media throughout the process to ensure that there will be no contract traps and that the funding limit is set reasonably. Even so, the company behind it still found a way to cheat. As long as Lu Hao is found guilty, the company can forcibly terminate the contract and require him to pay liquidated damages. It's only 300 million liquidated damages. As for salary? Are you kidding me? Of course I am going back to where I came from. Lu Hao can't even get a penny, and he still has to bear a debt of 300 million. Who made Lu Hao want to turn the bus into a private car? At around 7 o'clock in the evening, after eating, Li Yuan went out and came to Chen Ji. Chen Ji said with some surprise, I thought you wouldn't come tonight. After all, the matter here has been resolved, and Li Yuan should focus on Qingtian Capital's chips. Li Yuan said with a smile, I originally wanted to go to the company, but after thinking about it, even if I go, I probably won't have much to do. At least I can ask Sister Chen to make me a few cups of tea here. You're going to catch me and squeeze me alone, right? Girls are very afraid of getting old. Recently, I feel like my skin has become haggard. Chen Ji felt a little resentful. Then why don't we talk about the family fund? Can Sister Chen also take a share? Chen Ji. Family foundation? Participate in shares? What does Li Yuan want to do? How do you want to do it? Li Yuan thought for a moment and said, I want to issue 10,000 fund shares, each worth 5 million, and I can subscribe for up to 10 shares. A scale of 50 billion. Well, it's not suitable to make it too big. Chen Ji said, do you want to distribute benefits to the people around you? That's about right. I'll leave 10 copies for Sister Chen. I owe the money first. Based on what Chen Ji did for him, it didn't matter if he was given away. However, the benefits still have to be distributed in the end. If the money is not taken out, the follow-up process will not be easy. Chen Ji said, I'm just one person, so I don't need that much. You won't see me starve to death, so forget it. If you miss this village, I won't wait for you at the next store. Chen Ji. Of course she knew that since Li Yuan proposed this idea, he would definitely implement it. With his trading ability, that fund will definitely earn a lot of money every year. My personal limit is 50 million, and I'm afraid the annual dividends will be hundreds of millions. This is a huge amount of wealth, with only 10,000 copies, so not everyone can be qualified to buy it. It must be someone Li Yuan values, and he binds people together through interests. Sister Chen, the market is open. Let me read the market first. You can help me make the structure. Good. Soon, both people got into working mode. Li Yuan's decision to build a family fund was not a whim, but an idea he had already had. To distribute wealth among ordinary people, he can use Qingtian capital, compete with others, and even have other companies in the future. As long as it can provide hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs and millions of stable jobs, it will initially have the right to distribute wealth. If millions or even tens of millions more people benefit from his system, then he will have consolidated his right to distribute wealth. If because of these people, more and more wealth can be distributed in the end and more people are involved, then he can dare to say that he is completely in control of the situation. This is just the beginning. He is not stingy with the people around him, and will give them as long as they are valuable. Probably before the end of the year, he will distribute 1,000 copies, and the remaining 9,000 copies will be temporarily held in his hands, waiting for the destined person. With the opening of trading, Nvidia's stock price ushered in a new round of rise. It opened up 5 points. It's not that they don't want to keep pushing, it's just that this ticket is too eye-catching. If it pulls more than a dozen points, the whole world will probably pay attention. The result is that no one can get chips on the market. They know the cost distribution of each chip, and calculated that pulling 5 points is the best result at present. There will be a considerable number of people in the market who are willing to call out chips at this position. It's a pity that they follow the rules, and the funds in the market that followed the trend and shorted before do not follow the rules. As prices rose, their short-selling profits were compressed, and they even suffered losses. Those funds began to enter the market to scan chips to repay their contracts. But the overall impact was not big. It pulled a few points, and the chips went into the hands of brokers. For capital like Morgan and BlackRock, the chips in the hands of securities firms are the same as in their hands. Li Yuan asked Qingtian Capital to buy hundreds of thousands of dollars, triggering a shareholding increase announcement. Tuesday is here in the blink of an eye. That night, Nvidia rose another 5 points. The floating profit of Qingtian Capital's account once again increased by more than $500 million, and the market value of the position has reached $11.2 billion. After entering Wednesday, Nvidia's rising momentum slowed down, rising only 3 points on the day. Li Yuan tried it, but the brokerage firm stopped offering short contracts, citing lack of chips. It shows that Morgan and the others have gone crazy and bought all the chips in the hands of the brokerage. The properties of that chip are different, a complete illegal transaction. Li Yuan still asked Qingtian Capital to increase its holdings by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and his presence was full. He just wants to tell the market at all times not to ignore the chips in his hand. Sure enough, on Thursday, Pioneer Capital contacted Qingtian Capital. The opening was about the difficulties of option capital and the pain after being attacked by funds. Finally, they spoke and said that they were willing to take over the chips from option capital and the price was quite high. $9 billion. The current market value of Qingtian Capital's positions is about $11.5 billion, which is equivalent to only a 25% discount. Qingtian Capital is still losing money. Li Yuan asked Yao Yingsong to be responsible for the interview, saying that Qingtian Capital was optimistic about Nvidia's future and was prepared to make long-term investments and did not care about short-term profits and losses. Speaking of arrogance, there are many arrogant people in the world. Pioneer Capital can do this kind of idiotic behavior. After all, they are really good. The global assets under management exceed $1 trillion, which is no worse than Morgan. Nvidia gained 2 points on Friday. Pioneer Capital contacted Qingtian Capital again and offered a price of $10 billion. As long as Qingtian Capital is willing, then this matter will be over and it will eventually earn about $700 million. After all, their cost is $9.5 billion and leveraged capital is $8.3 billion. Including the remaining $500 million in his own account, the total profit is $10.5 billion minus $8.3 billion, plus $500 million, minus $1.5 billion. But unless Li Yuan is stupid. At present, he only needs to sit back and watch the fight, and wait for both parties to show their cards before he can ensure that Qingtian Capital's interests are maximized. He sold his chips so cheaply just to raise the value of Qingtian Capital's chips. Moreover, by deducting 3% of the stock, he was not only betting on Nvidia's future, but the most important thing was to control the chips and not give too much to the other party. Give too much, and they won't need the chips in Qingtian Capital's hands. Judging from the current situation, the two sides hold almost the same chips. Even if there is a gap, it is estimated to be within 1 point. 3 points may determine the outcome. Finally, on Saturday, Li Yuan received a call from Pioneer Capital on his personal mobile phone. "Hello, Mr. Li Yuan, I am Rich Kevin from Pioneer Capital." "Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Kevin. But you should know that I am currently resting. This terrible time difference will make our communication difficult, because I can't guarantee that my brain can recover." Li Yuan was already giving naked hints. "Give me more money, otherwise we won't talk. The current time for the two parties to chat is wrong. If he gives less money, he will quit." "Thank you, Mr. Li Yuan, for answering our call. We are here with enough sincerity and are willing to take over the stocks from Qingtian Capital at the closing price yesterday afternoon. For you, it is this morning's closing price. This price, are you satisfied?" After hearing this, Li Yuan said, "Huh? What are you talking about? Sorry, I haven't paid much attention to stocks recently, and I don't know what the stock price is because I don't plan to sell it. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it." Author, Lao He. Chapter 254. What Pioneer Capital said is not a cooperative attitude at all. What kind of bullshit is cheap acquisition? How can there be such a good thing in the world? As for whether to have a good relationship with Pioneer Capital? Even more nonsense. Would such a company care about China Capital? Never think about being friends with wolves. You can't be humane to them because they don't have humanity at all. Mr. Li Yuan, I understand your desire to grab the chips, but you may be overthinking it. Maybe within a few days, the chips in your hand will become worthless." Li Yuan said nonchalantly, "So what? From the moment I raised the sign, I never thought that the money could still be profitable. You can make money now if you want to. Did you make money?" Without Chen Ji's account, Li Yuan would have run away long ago. He has great clairvoyance skills, the authority to block accounts, and the great money-spreading skills, so it is impossible to defeat him no matter what. The other party appears to be polite, but actually shows his hypocritical character to the fullest. How much is the closing price? If you add it all up, you will earn $2 billion. If the chips he sold before were slightly higher, the profit would be more than that. Sir, we are not that prone to internal strife. You have set us up twice by relying on your black money, from Bitcoin to Nvidia. You will not get what you want this time." Li Yuan smiled slightly, "Then I'll wait for your good news. Let's talk today for $20 billion, and you take the bargaining chip. If we can't negotiate today, I will increase the price next time. You really overestimate your own strength." When Li Yuan heard this, he hung up immediately. In fact, if the other party offers us $15 billion, which is a premium of about 40%, he may consider it. After all, at this point, he is not necessarily in an advantageous position. According to the current closing price, it is us $12 billion. He spent a month and a half, not for this thing. Nvidia will reach its peak in a few years, with a market capitalization of us $1.2 trillion. Based on this calculation, the value of the chips held by Qingtian Capital can reach $200 billion US dollars. But now Nvidia is not worth that much. Wall Street capital will ship in the process of slowly rising. On the surface, Qingtian Capital is now the largest shareholder of Nvidia. Even the founder only holds 7%, and BlackRock still holds 7%. In fact, for those capitals, secretly holding shares is a normal operation. How else would they cash out? Stocks are essentially a financial game, and stock prices are time sensitive. If they can't get the chips in Li Yuan's hand, it will be impossible for Li Yuan to make the maximum profit. On Sunday, Li Yuan was still sleeping when he was woken up by his father's phone call. "Dad, why are you calling?" "Li Yuan," he said on the other side, "did something happen to Hazi? Your uncle found me today and said he wanted you to help. You agreed?" "Not yet, but your uncle and aunt are nice to you. Hazi and you have been playing together since childhood. If you can help, please help." Li Yuan said, "Uncle Feng Chun is next to you, right? Ask him to answer the phone and I'll ask something." Lu Feng Chun is Lu Hao's father. Li Yuan knew very well that his father was a face-saving person, and the two families had a good relationship, so he would not let him leave. He definitely wanted to help, but he didn't dare to make the decision easily, so he made this call. Compared with Li Yuan's expectations for his parents, this is already very good. At least he knows to ask himself first. He was mentally prepared to be suddenly taken over by his parents. About 5 minutes later, Li Yuan knew why Lu Hao's parents were so anxious. The media company that Lu Hao had signed with before came to visit and demanded to terminate the contract with Lu Hao. The reason was that Lu Hao violated the company regulations. The liquidated damages were a figure that their family could not imagine. Lu Hao's family, because Zhou Ranran received 20 million, and Lu Hao received more than 2 million after tax every month, they thought they had entered the wealthy class. Even if Lu Hao is arrested now, they don't feel that they are wrong and feel that they will definitely seek justice. But when they learned that the liquidated damages amounted to 300 million, all thoughts were abandoned. That's money they can't earn in 10 lifetimes. The chain of evidence collected by the media company is very simple, that is, it proves that Lu Hao has committed a crime. How could you be caught if you didn't break the law? Even if Li Yuan specially finds someone to help Lu Hao keep an eye on the contract and avoid some traps, the media company has the right to pursue liability in this situation. "Uncle Feng Chun, I don't dare to vouch for you. I'll ask someone for details later. Don't be too anxious. Hazi has been squatting for half a month anyway, and he doesn't care how many more days. When it comes to yin and yang, Li Yuan is not inferior to anyone. It's not easy for him to say anything directly, so it's not a big deal if he makes a few jabs in the dark. This incident cannot be blamed on him. His only cause and effect is that he led Lu Hao into the short video industry." Lu Feng Chun immediately felt that there was something wrong with this statement and did not realize what it meant. "After thinking about it after returning home, I realized that Li Yuan was blaming them. If they didn't insist on making the matter bigger, they would just accept mediation without giving up the betrothal gift. Without the betrothal gift, his family still has several million left in their hands, they still have a house in Zhangzhou, and Lu Hao still has a job with an annual salary of 30 million. Just think of it as the price of treating someone unkindly, and think of it as the price of their family's impulsive behavior. That price is affordable. But now, the situation is out of control, and a situation has arisen that they cannot afford. He thought that with Li Yuan's current status, it wouldn't be easy to deal with such a trivial matter. Who dares not to give him face? Even before, they didn't dare to look for Li Yuan, thinking that looking for Li Yuan would be overqualified. What he heard from Li Yuan today made him very disappointed. There is reflection, but not much. After staying in the hotel for one night, Lu Fengchun received a call from Li Yuan. Uncle Fengchun, I've asked about the matter. Regarding the breach of contract, I can't help here because there is a contract and He has indeed breached the contract. So, do you have a lawyer there? If not, I will find one for you and ask the lawyer to see if there is any possibility of mediation in this matter. At this moment, Lu Fengchun became truly anxious. Lawyer. His family temporarily had money to hire a lawyer, and they started looking for a lawyer half a month ago. Li Yuan was only willing to hire a lawyer, which basically meant that he couldn't help. He had never faced such a thing before, and he didn't know how to solve it. The only hope is to find Zhou Ranran. So, more than an hour later, Li Yuan received a call from Zhou Ranran. On the phone, Zhou Ranran whispered, "Do you really not care about He's affairs? If you don't care, I will care. Uncle Fengchun is looking for you." Oh, it seems they still think this is a trivial matter. In that case, I don't care. Well, I won't bother you anymore. Zhou Ranran seemed a little angry and hung up after saying this. Li Yuan called back. Sister Ran is angry. No, I just want to do something for him as much as I can to avoid being said to be inhumane in the future. Sister Ran, are you saying that I am impersonal? Isn't it? 300 million is a lot of money to you. Isn't it even worth 300 million to be your friend since childhood? Li Yuan closed the door of the study and said in a deep voice, "Do you think 300 million is a small amount of money? Do you know how much money I have spent on myself in the past 6 months? It's less than 1 million. Even so, I don't think my life is worse than anyone else. 300 million, is it a lot? Of course it is. If Lu Hao was in the operating room, or anyone in the village had no money for treatment in the operating room, 3 billion would be enough for me. I am willing to take it. But why should I pay for their mistakes? Let alone 300 million, even 300,000 is too much for me. You should also stop acting like a big sister. Now society has changed and it is no longer the time to be loyal. Without benefits, you are nothing. You give people benefits for no reason. Is your family a charity? Can you give it for a while, or can you give it for a lifetime? Why don't you raise him as your son? Didn't I give him a chance? Why did he leave because of a rotten woman? He's embarrassed to say it himself, so he talks to you? His parents don't know the truth, how can he know? Also, his parents are the biggest accomplices in this matter, and they are the ones who caused this situation. Are they thinking about you? Knowing that you found Lu Hao a job with a monthly salary of 50,000 yuan and earning more than 20 million yuan for his family, why didn't he still come over to play the emotional card with you and ask you to let him go? They really don't know that letting Lu Hao go will be a loss for you. But do they care? Does other people's losses have anything to do with them? All they care about from beginning to end is their own interests. Their son can get a higher salary, and their daughter-in-law can agree to marry her son. This is their interest. And you are just an emotional card in their hand. After you have already used it once, you have to use it a second time. Why are your feelings so cheap? You can help him. You also have money. Isn't it easy to help him pay the liquidated damages? But if you continue not to take yourself seriously, others will not take you seriously in the future. Well, including me. Zhou Ranran was silent for a long time, and then slowly said, "I understand." Her tone was low, and she was obviously not in a good mood. "I'll hang up first." "Well, Don't let this shit affect your emotions. You're going to have a baby soon and your health is important. I have a question to ask you, since you think that all relationships must have interests, what are the interests between me? Li Yuan sighed, are you going to get into this corner today? Okay, I'll make it clear to you. Your only value to me now is the child in your belly, and nothing else is important to me. So, give birth to the child well, and what do you want to do in the future? I won't even care about you. On the other side of the phone, Joe Ran sniffed. You are right, I am a useless person. My parents are good to me and listen to me. Most of the reason is that I give them money to spend, so that they have no worries in life, and they hope that I be kind to your brother in the future. Others respect me on the surface because I have money, can find a way out for them, and can benefit them. In fact, they secretly say that I work as a mistress for others. Other people's opinions can't affect us. The whole internet curses me every day to die soon. I don't have 10 million but I have 8 million. Do I care? Don't take others seriously. You don't even need to take them seriously, I take it seriously. To a certain extent, you can ask me for the benefits that belong to you and your children at any time. This is your right, and I will not be angry because of this kind of thing. Anyway, I can't get married to you. After you give birth to a child, you can marry whomever you want, no matter what I think. Joe Ran took a deep breath. Do you have to say this? Li Yuan, what else? Tell me in advance, and you should make a decision in advance, so that when I become famous later, you will post a short essay online and say that I am a heartless person. I am cautious in my own life, and I have to be careful when eating out. I don't want to work hard for half my life only to have my foundation ripped apart. My reputation, status, and power are all earned by myself, and I deserve them. I deserve it. Even my parents are not qualified to ask me to do anything, let alone others. Joe Ran, well, this is my first time meeting you, Mr. Li Yuan. Well, hung up. Li Yuan sat on the chair and rubbed his face. Since Lu Hao's parents haven't changed much after half a month, they should wait another half month. Anyway, he has plenty of time. Expect him to take out the money. Again, unless Lu Hao is dying now, he will not take a penny. The sunshine at the end of March was very comfortable. Li Yuan sat next to the window of the study, basking in the sun, and fell asleep again. I even had a dream. He dreamed that he failed in trading and lost all the profits he had made for several years in one go, and everyone in the world was laughing at him. At that time, Zhang Yuling asked him for child support. Zhou Ran cried and made noises in front of his hometown all day long, and Xu Yanlin lost her previous understanding and turned away when she saw him. Song Jiajia accused herself of being a scumbag online, and Cao Yuan angrily cursed that she was not a human being. Opening his eyes, he found Zhang Yuling sitting next to him with a smile and covering him with a blanket. Everything in the dream was indeed his own imagination, and it was hard for others to say, but even if he had nothing, Zhang Yuling would not ask for alimony from him. Seeing that he was awake, Zhang Yuling said, "You frown even when you sleep. You have been under too much pressure recently. Don't go to work at night. Rest at home." "Okay, I'm at home this week." There is no rush for Lu Hao's affairs, but for Nvidia's affairs, he can only take advantage of the situation. At night, he looked at the stock information on the computer screen in his study. After the opening, Nvidia changed last week's trend and opened 8 points higher. In just 10 minutes, it rose to 23 points. At the same time, the media began to release some super positive news about Nvidia, as well as its first quarter performance expectations. Nvidia continued to open higher on Tuesday night, this time opening 16 points higher before falling back to 13 points in late trading. On Wednesday night, Nvidia opened 2 points higher, dipped back into the water midway through, but started to surge late in the session, eventually closing up 19 points. After rising 67 points in 3 days, Nvidia's stock price directly exceeded $100 billion. Li Yuan knew from the data on Monday night that they went together. The two groups, who were originally at odds with each other, were able to put aside their grudges and become partners just because they did not want their Chinese capital to take advantage of them. Whenever this kind of thing happens in China, there will definitely be people who criticize the bad nature of the nation, act rogue, and bully others. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 255. Nvidia has soared, and Prime Capital is making more than $10 to $2 billion every day. But this is not a good thing. Only those who are in it can feel the risks. The other two groups of funds, after reaching an agreement, decisively started the market. Monday and Tuesday were just for show, and on Wednesday, a wave of counterattacks was made, killing almost all the chips on the market. And it has risen sharply for 3 consecutive days, and almost all short orders have been eliminated. Rich, as a representative of Vanguard Capital, has recently taken the lead in this matter. That bastard Mondale has been kicked out, just be honest and obedient. The brokerage took back 11%, Nvidia's several natural person shareholders added up to 9%, Redneck Capital got 30%, we got 29%, and Qingtian Capital got 17%. Only 4% of the chips on the market are left. According to the distribution of positions, these are scattered chips. As of today, they have not been sold, and there is a high probability that they will not be sold in the future. It will have little impact on the market. Li Yuan has no other bargaining chips except Qingtian Capital. If he had, he would have sold it to Redneck Capital in one go. Only in this way could Redneck Capital take the initiative and not cooperate with us at all. He is analyzing the situation on the board. After all, with the eyes of heaven opened, analyzing this is no problem at all. After the negotiation with Qingtian Capital collapsed, he immediately found Redneck Capital and had in-depth communication with the other party. At that time, they had 28% of the chips in hand, and Redneck Capital had 29% of the chips. But Nvidia's natural person shareholders are on their side, and the Rednecks don't have enough chips. After chatting for a full day, the two parties reached an agreement to raise prices together and earn each other's own profits. No matter what, we are all Americans and will not let a Chinese capital take advantage. That is to say, in the pull-up stage, after the short orders are liquidated, the brokers will have more stocks in their hands. After pulling up on Wednesday, a lot of new short orders were added, amounting to tens of millions of dollars. Richie was very satisfied when he saw it. At any time in the future, any short orders that appear at any price will be blown up and become the nutrient for them to pull up. Until the whole market starts to go crazy, that's when they hand over chips. Because of the sudden introduction of Redneck Capital, their previous plans have been forced to change. I originally wanted to take advantage of Nvidia's good performance to increase Nvidia's market value to $200 billion in the first half of the year and obtain part of the profits. It is natural that stocks will split and fall in the second half of the year. After all, if the market conditions are not good, no one will care. Then there is the next step of waiting for the next wave of opportunities. Even if there is no opportunity, cut some market funds and prepare enough to make another performance for Nvidia. A super ticket cannot only be used for one round and then be stopped. But something unexpected happened, and that bastard Mondale fell into someone else's trap. Now we have to bring in Redneck Capital to cooperate, and at the same time kill Qingtian Capital's positions. Then, Nvidia can only make a wave of market trends. And it can only be done within half a year, otherwise the position ban of Qingtian Capital will be lifted and no one will make money by then. According to the plan, Nvidia will first be raised to a market value of $300 billion, then it will go sideways for a month or two, and then Nvidia will achieve explosive performance in the second quarter, which will naturally bring Nvidia's market value to us $500 billion. They will ship a small amount when the market value is us $300 billion. Redneck Capital and them will jointly sell 5%. When the market value reaches us $500 billion, both parties will sell 10% each. From now on, it's all up to you. The funds on the market belong to whoever grabs them. Whether Microsoft or Apple, they operate this way. No matter how bad it is every day, it will rise by half a point, and it is rarely green. The purpose is to give others a sense that this ticket is worth it at any price. By taking advantage of one or two opportunities, tens of billions of dollars can be harvested. Round after round, the stock price is completely within their control. Operating stocks with a market value of trillions of dollars is the core of their entire group's business. Nvidia has not yet entered a core position, so Mondale has a way to fish in troubled waters and let Morgan take out the money. The main funds for the increase were provided by Morgan. After all, Morgan owed a lot of chips to the brokers, and all the chips it obtained were returned to the brokers. Thursday. Li Yuan looked at the financial news and couldn't help but want to scold these bastards. Computing power and Nvidia are being touted everywhere. Let's begin to analyze the reasons for Nvidia's rise from all aspects. Why has Bitcoin's computing power increased dozens of times? The PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds fire has led to the replacement of global computer graphics cards, and the demand has surged several times. There are even rumors that Nvidia's orders have been scheduled for 3 years, and Nvidia is investing tens of billions of dollars to expand production and capacity. At first glance, it's Wall Street's approach. Then, A-share-related concepts also rose sharply, which is the only thing that can make waves in this year's bear market. Software companies are extremely tough. Almost all the liquidity in the market has gone to the computing power sector. Li Yuan has not moved in the past few days. He knows that Nvidia will definitely rise, and he also knows that grabbing some chips can make a certain profit. However, he felt that there were too few chips on the market. If he grabbed some more and held them still, the entire market would be out of circulation. The big national funds were very helpless as they watched Qingtian Capital earn $2 to $3 billion every day. There is nothing wrong with Li Yuan's trading, and Nvidia is the chosen one. Unfortunately, the stock cannot be traded. The current market value of Qingtian Capital's positions has almost reached $20 billion. If it can be realized, there is no need to worry about the performance for the whole year this year. Everyone can just wait for the new year with peace of mind. Even though it's not even April yet. Is there anyone willing to take over our Nvidia stock? The National Fund has been meeting for several days in a row over this matter. Restricted stocks can be traded, but an announcement must be made. Of course, after the transaction is completed, the other party cannot immediately enter the secondary market to buy or sell, and must wait for the ban to be lifted. Generally, few people are willing to take over such stocks. The value of restricted stocks is not that high, especially now that Nvidia is going through a big market. No one dares to say how long this market will last. If it collapses, there is a high probability that everything will be lost. So, this kind of big market can't last more than half a year, right? We can lower the price. Vanguard Capital offered Li Yuan a price of $10 billion, but he didn't sell it. How far can we decide the discount? The current market theory is that Wall Street funds are targeting Li Yuan, taking advantage of the restrictions on Qingtian Capital stock, to withdraw money. Nvidia has reaped the dividends from its performance growth, but when Qingtian Capital lifts the ban, it won't reap anything. In fact, many people agree with this. But this does not prevent them from thinking that Nvidia is an awesome company. There are still 5 months until the ban is lifted. No one can say how high Nvidia's stock price will rise in these 5 months. At this time, Yao Yingsong called. After someone answered the call, he started reporting to the office leader. Several leaders and Director Yao called and said that Li Yuan requested to open a new fund. I hope they can help apply for the quota. It is still 1.5 billion US dollars. When everyone heard this, their expressions were a little strange. This guy Li Yuan has been targeted like this, but he still doesn't give up. Nvidia's funds are locked, so he just changes his account and continues. However, reopening a fund requires re-establishing projects, which is quite troublesome overall. Several leaders thought for a while, and then someone said, otherwise, we can still use the previous account, but we will upgrade the limit to 3 billion US dollars. In this way, both of us can just inject more funds into it and continue the previous one project, quick and easy. Then let Yao Yingsong talk to Li Yuan. After Li Yuan received the news from Yao Yingsong, he agreed immediately. Not much difference. The main reason is that I feel a little itchy watching Nvidia's skyrocketing price every day, and it would be nice to earn some pocket money. In addition, there are about 500 million US dollars left in the original account, which is enough to collect 2 billion US dollars for fun. As for whether they will be sniped, that group of people must be brave. Continue to use quantification to target yourself. Don't blame Nvidia for the scene happening again. Anyway, they can't target Chen Ji's account. If you don't need to quantify, how about opening your eyes? Then I will kill them with ink, tie up their funds, and everyone will stop playing. So, on Friday night, Li Yuan went to work in the company. Even though he was surrounded by trivial matters, he was still able to put away all distracting thoughts when he arrived in the trading room. This is his home court. Without it, he is worthless. What he said to Zhou Ranran was not perfunctory. Except for his parents, he would not retain anyone. Anyone who wanted to leave could leave. As soon as he started trading, Wall Street got the message. Then, I took a look at his positions and suddenly lost interest. I really don't dare to play like this with Li Yuan. Quantification is a bad idea. I was tricked without realizing it. Even if the algorithm is changed, Li Yuan only needs to test it a few times before he can almost figure it out, and then come up with a suitable way to continue the trap. Anyway, the market situation this year is bad, and most stocks are falling. Let Li Yuan play slowly, and he won't make much money throughout the year. On Saturday night, Li Yuan accompanied Zhang Yuling in the bedroom to watch Gu Dongshen's first show. The price/performance ratio was indeed very high on the first day. In addition, Gu Dongshen had a lot of female fans, and his spending power was terrifying. The first show bought 120 million yuan, setting a record for the platform's live broadcast to bring goods. Various matrix accounts began to be widely advertised almost immediately. Jushin Media has tens of thousands of matrix accounts, and there are also a lot of various internet celebrity broadcast accounts. As long as you sign a contract, according to the character design arranged by Jushin Media, you can basically have hundreds of thousands of fans in half a month. Daedong Selection has taken the first step with this brand. Li Yuan felt that Gu Dongshen was really talented, especially in making money. Zhang Yuling looked at Gu Dongshen in the live broadcast and was shocked. It's amazing. It's very inspiring. Well, the most outrageous thing he has ever done in his life is to want me to get into the lap of a rich woman, and he resorted to spreading rumors. Zhang Yuling. She didn't dare to answer, fearing that Li Yuan would involve her again later. It took a lot of effort for the two of them to put an end to this mess. So Zhang Yuling said, "You are many times better than him." But Li Yuan shook his head, "I'm not as good as him." From today on, Gu Dongshen has finally found a long-term path, and the two of them no longer owe each other anything. Maybe Gu Dongshen will become a top seller with an annual income of billions in the future, or maybe he will lose his house because he said the wrong thing. But he will definitely not be short of money in this life. Why are you so humble all of a sudden? Li Yuan was arrogant no matter who he faced. Today's scene was very rare for Zhang Yuling. It's not humility. I can't do what he does. Then he can't do what you do. Li Yuan exited the live broadcast room and did not continue to delve into this topic. After turning off the light, Zhang Yuling leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "Mom has been unhappy these past 2 days. I want to tell you something, but you don't dare to speak because you are so busy." "Did someone call her?" "Well, about your little one." "Oh, just wait another 2 weeks." Even if Hu Weizong's products have already started production, Li Yuan would rather leave them in the warehouse for a few months than solve the problem in such a hurry. Through this incident, it can also be seen that Zhou Ranran refused to help, otherwise there would be no results until now. The money in Zhou Ranran's hands was enough to pay off Lu Hao's liquidated damages. Lu Hao's parents haven't woken up yet. No matter how many times in your life you don't accept your fate, you will always make the same mistake. Even if he brought Lu Hao out safe and sound, there was no guarantee that such a scene would not happen again. "Then, I have one more thing to tell you," Zhang Yuling whispered. The due date is June 8th, will you be free then?" When Li Yuan heard about this date, his heart twitched. Because this is the first anniversary of his return here. It turns out that it only took him more than 2 months to give Zhang Yuling. It was almost 3 months ago. He remembered that Xu Yanlin was in military training at that time. "I'm free no matter what day." "Ang, he, also, your birthday is next month, how do you want to celebrate it?" "Let's spend time together after the baby is born." "I have to be busy with work that day, so I probably won't be able to be at home." "Oh fine. Husband, I love you." "Okay, I got it. Go to bed quickly." "I won't run away." "Then, we will definitely get married, right?" "Yes, I will definitely get married." Li Yuan is really not in a good mood recently, mainly because of too many trivial matters. "I faced many choices and had to say goodbye to many people. Especially after chatting openly with Zhou Ranran, Zhou Ranran never sent him a message again. Although I don't send many on weekdays, I definitely get one every 2 or 3 days. It's been a week." He was worried about Zhou Ranran's current condition. After all, she was about to give birth to a child. Moreover, her due date is almost the same as her birthday. "I'm going back to my hometown tomorrow. Just tell Mom that I'm going to work." Zhang Yuling hesitated a little, but still agreed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 256. On Monday morning, Li Yuan returned to his hometown. At this time, the entire village was almost completed. At present, the road is being leveled and preliminary decoration has begun. He just glanced at it from a distance, fearing that he would meet his father there. After waiting for the news from Wang Qi, he arrived at the place where Zhou Ranran currently lives. Zhou Ranran actually felt guilty when she saw Li Yuan. After all, she was indeed a little willful a few days ago. Regardless of whether you agree with Li Yuan's ideas or not, at least the people around you can have the life they have now because of Li Yuan's existence. Because her due date is approaching, she rarely goes out. Especially at this time, it was still a little cold in the morning, and she was too lazy to get out of bed. After seeing Li Yuan come in, she lowered her head and said, "Are you here to ask questions?" It was the first time she saw Li Yuan angry, and she never thought she would say those words to him on the phone. He knew that Li Yuan was not the kind of character who would accommodate others. It was already obvious what he wanted to do when he suddenly came back at this time. Scold yourself? Threatening yourself? Let yourself know how much you weigh? Who did you rely on to get where you are now? I came back to arrange a hospital for you. It's in Zhangzhou. You can move there in a few days to wait for delivery. I'll feel more at ease. Zhou Ran. Didn't you come back to scold yourself? She was ready to pretend to be pitiful and beg for forgiveness, and she had even been reflecting on herself these past few days. Half an hour ago, when she knew that Li Yuan was coming, she felt panicked. Is that really all there is to it? Li Yuan said helplessly, otherwise. I can really come here to quarrel with you over a trivial matter. The country knows that pregnant women are not sentenced to death. Does Li Yuan have to make Zhou Ran uncomfortable at this time? He just came back to arrange some things and let Zhou Ran see his attitude so that he would not have random thoughts at home. In this hospital in the county town, he wasn't worried about the doctors, but he was worried about Zhou Ran's parents. If they want to make the decision when giving birth to a child, Zhou Ran has no ability to resist, and Wang Qi has no right to speak. He arranged everything, including food and accommodation, without letting her parents interfere with anything. Even if you want to hold a baby, you have to be under the supervision of medical staff. You will come back later and scold me, scolding me for being ignorant. What are you thinking about? It's good to have your own opinions, but from now on you either do it yourself and don't ask me, or if you ask me, just follow my arrangements. Zhou Ran nodded quickly. I'm happy without being scolded. Moreover, Li Yuan was asked to make a special trip. This guy was very busy every day and would not run around easily. Li Yuan shouted to the outside, Xiao Qi, come in for a moment. Soon, Wang Qi walked in. Li Yuan handed the things he carried to Wang Qi and said, in a few days, you will take Sister Ran to Zhangzhou and listen to the arrangements when you get there. Okay. Also, if Uncle Fang and the others get angry, remember to call me. When they get there, no matter who they are, they have to listen to the medical care. Uncle Fang and the others don't count. When Sister Ran is unable to make a decision, you have to protect her. No one can make the decision except me. Li Yuan believes that the traditional thinking about childbirth has merit, but there are also some flaws in it. For example, you cannot take a shower during confinement period. There are definitely benefits to confinement, but in the traditional concept, you cannot take a bath, no matter how hot the weather is, you have to wear more layers, and you even have to wrap your head. He didn't want to end up in trouble because of a small problem. Zhou Ran will be very weak after giving birth to a child. If she has a cesarean section, she will be even weaker. If her parents force her to do something, even if she does something wrong with good intentions, Li Yuan cannot accept it. He can understand the stubbornness of those people, but he cannot be stubborn on him. After everything was arranged, Zhou Ran asked, are you having lunch here? I shouldn't be free at noon. I have to rush to the company. Just bring a few changes of clothes and baby products, bring them with you if you buy them. Follow the guidance of the medical staff and use them. Don't use anything that is not allowed to be used. Just for a moment. Zhou Ran winked at Wang Qi and asked Wang Qi to go first. She stretched out her hand to pull Li Yuan and said, would you please stay with me for a while? Okay. Li Yuan finally stayed for more than an hour and left the county seat around 12 o'clock. After returning to Zhangzhou, he entered work mode. I trade funds every night, and then rest at Chenji's place. Putting aside Nvidia's earnings, he actually doesn't earn much every night now. Sometimes, it's only $2 to $3 million a night, and sometimes it's as much as $4 to $50 million. Compared with the principal of $2 billion, this income is indeed far different from before. After working continuously for half a month, by mid-April, he had earned $200 million. During this period, Nvidia rose at least 10 points every day, becoming one of the hottest stocks in the world. Even Apple and Microsoft are falling during this period. Global economic deflation, although there are expectations of relief, has not been let go. The liquidity of US stocks has also dropped to freezing point. Even if Nvidia rises every day, the trading volume has not increased significantly. Nvidia's market value is close to $300 billion. Therefore, the daily floating profit data of this fund are very good, and it earns billions of dollars every day. It seemed like he was laughing at Li Yuan's hard-earned $200 million. In the past half month, Li Yuan was scolded by his father and asked why he didn't help his neighbors. Li Yuan said directly, he just lost 80 billion. When Li Wanhe heard this, he immediately stopped mentioning it. Later, Lu Hao's family probably felt that Li Yuan was hopeless and never looked for him again. At the same time, Hu Weizong's goods had started to be produced, and Li Yuan asked Song Jiajia to rent a warehouse. Bixin Mall had to do storage anyway, so the area occupied by that little bait didn't take up much. During this period, he just wanted to wait for Zhou Ranran to successfully give birth to the child. He did nothing but work. I have never seen Cao Yuan, and I have never been to Shu Yanlin. No matter how inhumane he was, he would not ignore his soon-to-be-born child. It's just that he doesn't like to show it. In the blink of an eye, it went from mid-April to late April, and then slowly to the end of the month. Late at night on April 29, Wang Qi sent him a message that Zhou Ranran's amniotic fluid had broken. He stopped all the work he was doing, ignored the trading room, and asked the driver to drive to the hospital where Zhou Ranran was staying. He didn't go up because there was someone there. Zhou Ranran's parents are there, Wang Qi is also there, and there are some medical staff. This hospital was introduced by Chen Ji, who spent more than 2 million to contract a team for 3 months, including the use of various equipment. The waiting process was excruciating. At 4 in the morning, Wang Qi sent him a message saying that mother and son were safe. At that moment, he breathed a long sigh of relief. Although he didn't show up from beginning to end, the whole process was repeated in his mind. After Zhang Yuling gave birth, he would be completely at ease. After asking about Zhou Ranran's situation, he made sure that there was nothing he needed, and then asked the driver to drive back to where he lived. She went back earlier than usual, but Chen Ji still got up and was busy in the kitchen. Chen Ji was a little surprised and asked, "Why is it so early today? You have always been very strict with your work, but you actually get off work early." Li Yuan said with a smile, "If I don't get off work early, how do I know that Sister Chen gets up at 5 o'clock every morning? Today is a special case." After saying that, Chen Ji walked out of the kitchen, holding a bowl of noodles in her hand. After Li Yuan sat down, he smelled the aroma, picked up his chopsticks and started eating. The noodles made by Sister Chen are really unique. No one can make them as delicious as you. Chen Ji sat down and said, "This is a bowl of longevity noodles." "Ah! How did you know today is my birthday?" "Zhang Yuling asked me to make it for you." The movement of Li Yuan's hands stopped for a moment, but he soon continued to eat, but said nothing more. After eating the noodles, he went to wash his face and then returned to the room. After Chen Ji cleaned up, she came to the door of the room, knocked on the door, and then said, "Happy birthday, little scumbag." The next second, Li Yuan opened the door and said with a smile, "I quite like this title, so I don't feel guilty." "Chen Ji, do you still feel guilty?" "I really didn't see it." "Sister Chen, if I didn't feel guilty and was with a beautiful woman like you every day, you would have given birth to a second child long ago. Since my wife asked you to make longevity noodles for me, did you tell me anything else?" "What?" "For example, she has been inconvenienced recently. Would you like you to take over the duties of her fiancé on her behalf?" "Chen Ji, there are only wrong names in the world, but there is absolutely no wrong nicknames. Let's give it another day. I don't want to break the atmosphere between you today. Go to bed early." Li Yuan waited for Chen Ji to go to the living room before closing the door. Lying on the bed a little confused. He hates that kind of feeling, talking about nonsense love. Damn it, apart from affecting the Taoist mind, what other benefits does it have? Zhang Yuling's gift was not just an ordinary gift. It was perhaps the most heartwarming gift in his life. It was difficult to find anything comparable to it. It can also be seen from his test just now that Chen Ji knows the meaning behind this matter. Li Yuan never thought about anyone who was sincere to him in this life. Just have interests tied together and run a life together. I have long since let down the love thing, and my broken soul is not worthy of such a pure thing. Now Zhang Yuling forcefully stuffed a gram of gemstones into the tattered hat. Suddenly it seemed a lot more noble. When I woke up, it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Originally, according to his habit, he would look at the market after eating something to set the direction for the night trading. But after he replied to a few messages, he couldn't help but want to go home. Xu Yanlin and the others sent her birthday congratulations, and even Zhou Ranran, who had just given birth, also sent her a message. Of course, it also includes the voice of my mother, asking if I want to go home for dinner on my birthday. But all he could think about was the bowl of noodles. At this time, Chen Ji said, "What do you want to eat? I haven't had time to buy groceries today. I will go downstairs after you finish speaking." "Well, forget it, I'll go home to eat and come back early tomorrow morning." A smile appeared on Chen Ji's face. "Okay, then I'll go to sleep for a while, and then go out when I wake up." A few minutes later, Li Yuan opened the door to his home. Then he discovered that Zhang Yuling was video chatting with Zhou Ranran. Ran, let me see the child quickly." Zhou Ranran was about to turn the camera when she noticed another head coming closer to the screen. She smiled and said, "You guys are really free. After a while, you will have it by yourself. Then you can do whatever you want." Zhang Yuling said, "Let's take a look in advance. I heard that newborn babies are very ugly. I should be mentally prepared first. What if I can't accept it? It's indeed a bit ugly, but that kind of blood relationship will make you reluctant to let go. If you want to see it so much, do you want to recognize the child as your godmother?" Zhang Yuling glanced at Li Yuan and said to Zhou Ranran, "I can't make the decision in this matter. According to the rules of our family, only the male master can take charge of such important matters. Ask me, the man." After speaking, she moved the camera angle. Zhou Ranran hurriedly said, "Forget it, don't bring Xiao Yuan into the topic between us. I'll make a video call for you later, so you can take a good look at it." Soon, Zhou Ranran hung up the video. Zhang Yuling put down the phone and said, "Why didn't you go to the hospital? I went there last night and stayed downstairs for a while." Zhang Yuling was not surprised by this, but by Li Yuan's confession. She only found out that Zhou Ranran had given birth to a baby in the morning, and she felt a little disappointed at that time, because according to her idea, Li Yuan must be with Zhou Ranran. "Naturally, I couldn't eat the noodles I prepared last night. Two things, such a coincidence. People don't know if they don't come to the door if they care. I don't care if other people know it or not, as long as I can convince myself of it." "Oh, then when I give birth to a baby, will you just take a look and leave?" "No, I can't convince myself that way." "Why?" "There is no reason. You are my wife. Isn't it normal for me to stay by your side?" Zhang Yuling smiled and hugged Li Yuan, and then asked, "Then did you eat the longevity noodles I prepared for you?" "Eat it, it tastes delicious." "Then what?" "No, isn't that what noodles taste like? Just noodles. Otherwise." "Wife, you have prepared other gifts for me, right?" "Damn it, Chen Ji, you dare to steal the birthday gift my wife gave me. I'm going to find her now." Seeing that Li Yuan was really about to get up and go out, Zhang Yuling quickly grabbed him and said, "You really don't want it? I'll call her over now to confront her." "Forget it, I believe you." Zhang Yuling had no reason not to believe Li Yuan even after going to Zhou Ranran's account last night. He has nothing to hide. "But I didn't receive the gift, what should I do?" "I'll get you another one. I accidentally watched a LOL game today and missed the best time to code. I won't read it tomorrow. There is still one chapter left today. I will make up for it at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Sorry. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it." Author, Lao He. Chapter 257. For the first time, Li Yuan found a groove in a person that fit his soul. As if they were meant to be together. In the past, he could not find anything that suited his soul, only one that suited his body. He was very grateful to Zhang Yuling for giving him a chance. This kind of thing is impossible for anyone. Be it Xu Yanlin or Zhou Ranran, if they were put in Zhang Yuling's position, there would be two completely different outcomes. If they didn't get angry with themselves, it would be considered bearable. People are all selfish, no matter what their origin or environment. As long as she has the capital to be selfish, this emotion will be amplified. Including Li Yuan himself. If he didn't have the wealth and status he has now, he wouldn't be able to be selfish even if he wanted to. He would have to do whatever his parents asked him to do. After all, he relies on his parents for food. At almost 5 o'clock, Zhou Wan came back from outside. She heard that Zhou Ranran had given birth to a baby, so she bought something after lunch and went to take a look. "I was very happy when I left, but when I came back, my emotions were a little complicated, especially when I saw Zhang Yuling." Zhang Yuling came over and asked, "Mom, how is Ranran doing there? Was it a natural birth or a cesarean section?" "It's a natural birth. I specifically asked her about the situation. Don't be afraid. It's very safe to give birth now." Have you seen the child?" "This, I saw it." Zhou Wan had complicated emotions just because she saw the child. "Zhang Yuling, Ranran also sent me a photo just now. The child looks exactly like Li Yuan when he was a child." Zhou Wan's heart skipped a beat. She personally brought up Li Yuan, how could she not know what Li Yuan was like when he was a child? Seeing Zhou Ranran's child today directly activated her memories that had been dormant for 20 years. Really exactly the same. Fortunately, Zhang Yuling added, he will definitely be as handsome as Li Yuan when he grows up. Li Yuan, who was sitting on the sofa, saw with his own eyes that his mother's eyes were wandering from the beginning to letting out a sigh of relief at the end. He knew what Zhang Yuling meant when he said these words, and he wanted to get vaccinated in advance. Obviously, this injection scared Zhou Wan. He responded a few words absent-mindedly and started to cook. After Li Yuan finished eating, while Li Yuan was in the study, Zhou Wan blocked him in. On weekdays, Zhou Wan would not go to the study except for cleaning. She knew that Li Yuan was busy with work. But today, after she came in, she closed the door and asked in a low voice but a very sharp tone, "Does Ranran's child have anything to do with you?" This is not a whim, but many people have spread the word. After all, his son looks like the rich man. Otherwise, why hasn't Zhou Ranran's boyfriend shown up yet? It's just that we have no evidence, and Zhou Ranran's parents didn't have that deep impression of Li Yuan when he was a child. Regardless of their own flesh and blood, most people's memories will not be that deep, so when Zhou Wan saw the child for the first time, she found many familiar places. Li Yuan rubbed his head and said, "Mom, don't you know everything?" "Zhou Wan. What do you know?" "What does she know?" "She just came here to ask because she didn't know." "What did this bastard say? Is this what she should know about co-writing?" "If she had known, she would have broken this kid's legs long ago." "She didn't come here to ask Li Yuan to confess, she came here to ask Li Yuan to deny it." Otherwise, this matter would not end at all. She did not dare to face Zhang Yuling, nor did she dare to face Zhou Ranran. Reorganize your language. Zhou Wan felt that her legs were inexplicably weak. The next second, Li Yuan said, "Just like you thought, it's mine." Zhou Wan immediately walked up to Li Yuan and said, "Get out of the way and sit for a while." After saying that, she pulled Li Yuan up from the chair, and then sat down herself. Li Yuan stood nearby, looking at his mother who was breathing a little quickly, and said in a nonchalant manner, "Anyway, the child has been born, and it is impossible to stuff it back. Just pretend you don't know about this." Zhou Wan stared at Li Yuan. Was this guy speaking human language? If she can't even care about this kind of thing, then what's the point of living? She was speechless and was so angry at Li Yuan. Li Yuan also had the patience to wait for her to calm down, so after about 2 minutes, Zhou Wan gritted her teeth and said, "What are you going to do about this? Didn't you tell me? Just pretend it never happened. Sister Ran won't say anything about it, and the child will have nothing to do with me in the future." Li Yuan answered calmly. Zhou Wan had already clenched her fists. If she hadn't been afraid of making too much noise and disturbing Zhang Yuling, she would have dared to tear this bastard apart now. Li Yuan continued, "Otherwise, what are you going to do? Let me marry Sister Ran? Admit that the child is mine? What about Yuling? Drive her out? Or let her risk her life after almost 9 months? Beat the child? If that doesn't work, why don't you go and throw away Sister Ran's child? If you think there is any good solution, I can listen to it." Li Yuan saw his mother getting more and more excited and confused, and continued, "Also, I can't give Sister Ran's child any benefit in the future. There are people watching me everywhere. Some people don't I dare to do anything to Yuling, but I can't guarantee the safety of Sister Ran. If you want to harm me, just scream all over the world. At worst, I will die and we will finish it all." He wasn't going to admit it before, but recently Zhang Yuling gave him a chance. If you don't admit it now, you may not have the chance to admit it in the future. What if Zhang Yuling regrets it? Of course, saying such serious words to your mother has another meaning. His parents have been a little distracted recently, he can't talk about the old couple. After all, it is reasonable to be proud of one's son. But he dared not say whether it would become a breakthrough for others in the future. What he fears most is that the old couple will be taken advantage of by others, and then they will suffer. The old couple can enjoy life however they want. They can spend money normally, no matter how much money they have. What they are most afraid of is that the money will be taken away and people will suffer. Now that the matter of the other child has been revealed, it is almost time for the old couple to keep a low profile. "Why does my father rarely come back? Aren't you having a great time staying in the county?" Big shots invited him to dinner every day. Who wouldn't bend down to say hello and hand him a cigarette when they saw him? He had never been treated like this in his life. There are not many people in the world who can resist this feeling of being a master. It's just that Dad is a little too showy now. This ugliness will make them feel guilty and make them start to think about balancing some relationships. The most important thing is that when Li Yuan said he would not give money to Zhou Ranran's children, the old couple would definitely disagree. The palms and backs of your hands are full of flesh, so no matter how hard it is, you still have to give some. If Li Yuan doesn't give it, the old couple will have to give it. No matter how much you give, they will feel it is less. And, where does the money come from? You don't have to get it from Li Yuan. Otherwise, the old couple will be exhausted and unable to earn enough money to show their sincerity. Li Yuan gave them 10 million, and they were afraid that they would even save the interest. In this way, your personality will be more restrained, and you will have to think carefully about any decision you make in the future, whether it will affect your son. After all, I have to find my son to use money to support another grandson. Li Yuan believes that parents will weigh the relationship between personal vanity and their grandson. They don't want to fight for good things for Zhou Ranran's children, so they just play casually, be arrogant or showy, it doesn't matter, anyway, they believe that their son can take care of the truth. If you want to have a good relationship with another grandson and get along well, you must please Li Yuan. No matter how bad it is, we can't cause him any trouble, otherwise. After waiting for 10 minutes, Zhou Wan took out her cell phone and called Li Wanhe. "Where are you? Go back to Zhangzhou quickly." Li Wanhe said on the other side of the phone, "I still have things to do here. I'll be there tomorrow, the day after tomorrow." "You are going to die? Do you think I don't know what you are doing in your hometown these days? Come back quickly. If you don't come back tonight, don't come back again." "What's wrong? What's wrong with you? You can't even let people have a good drink, right? Then you drink well, die on the drinking table, and don't come back again." Zhou Wan didn't know how to vent her anger on her son, so she got angry at her own man. Li Yuan's operation was far beyond the endurance of the two rural people. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Wan returned to a state of silence, and Li Yuan said, "Mom, Yuling said that she will be admitted to that hospital at the end of next month. Aren't you familiar with it? I will make arrangements then, and you will stay with me for a while." Zhou Wan hummed softly. It was really nice over there, she could tell after spending a few hours there. "Then let me help you up." Li Yuan smiled and stretched out his hand. But Zhou Wan pushed her away directly and said, "I'm not old yet, I don't need your support." She must be angry with Li Yuan about this matter. But it was only for a while, and I have long since recovered. Thinking about it carefully, although it is unfair to Zhang Yuling, the old couple should be secretly happy to have an extra grandson. They have caught up with all the beautiful things in the world. The reason for the angry words is that he hasn't found the step yet, so he can't just accept it. What if Li Yuan comes up with another one in the future? Her current thoughts are very similar to Li Wanhe's. Li Yuan doesn't look like their child. But no one will do a paternity test. Li Yuan breathed a sigh of relief when he saw his mother going out. Although it was inconvenient for him to visit Zhou Ranran, it would be okay for his parents to do it instead. After a while, Zhang Yuling came in with a plate of fruit and said, "Mom made me a big plate, and I can't finish it. Please help me eat some. If you can't finish it, just don't eat it." "No, you have to make the elders feel that their efforts are useful, otherwise they will worry about gains and losses. Come on, help me solve it, and I will eat it all for you." Li Yuan took the fruit plate and started eating. When it comes to dealing with elders, Zhang Yuling must have done better than himself. Whether it was before his identity was exposed or after his identity was exposed, his parents were extremely satisfied with Zhang Yuling. They did not feel that there was anything wrong with Zhang Yuling just because his identity had improved. It is enough to show that Zhang Yuling is perfect in their eyes and will not change due to any factors. While he was eating fruit, Zhang Yuling asked, "What did you tell Mom? You want to hear it?" Zhang Yuling hurriedly shook his head, "Forget it, I don't want to hear it. As long as it doesn't affect my life, I'll just pretend I don't know. Otherwise, if you decide not to want me anymore, I won't be able to find anyone else to take care of this child coming to take over." Is this what Zhang Yuling is afraid of? She never needed anyone to take over. Zhang Yuling's generosity exceeded Li Yuan's knowledge. What he thought at first was to delay and not get married. This would give him more confidence to reject Zhang Yuanxiao in the future. He knew very well that after getting married, Zhang Yuling's possessiveness would reach an unprecedented level, and his family would be in dire straits. Now he is not so repelled by marriage. At around 7 o'clock, he went to the company, and Li Wanhe, who was downstairs and about to go upstairs, was stopped by Zhou Wan. "What's going on? I rushed here in a hurry, you have to let me sit down and take a breath first, right? Li Wanhee doesn't think there will be any problems at home. After all, his son is here. If his son can't solve the problem, he will be of no use. But Jo Won's tone was a little harsh, so he had no choice but to work overtime to get here. Jo Won took Li Wanhee to the corner and said, "You have a grandson, do you know?" "Huh? Did you go to the hospital to check your gender? You've already given birth, do you still need to check?" "What? Why didn't you tell me about such a big thing? And, isn't the due date in June? It's only the end of April, so many premature births? How is Yuling doing now?" Li Wanhee was a little anxious. This kind of thing happened at home, and Jo Won didn't call him earlier. Jo Won said seriously, "It's not Yuling's." "Huh? What do you mean?" "Your good son, there is another child outside, who was just born today." Li Wanhee. For a moment, his brain shut down. It took him a long time to regain his composure and said, "You just gave birth today? Could you be talking about Ran Ran?" "Jo Ran Ran gave birth to a baby today," he knew. "It's just that Jo Yafang's family is not in the county seat, so there is no chance to go over and have a look." Now that he suddenly said this, he couldn't think of any other possibility. Li Wanhee, are you sure you got it right? This matter will be completely unacceptable for a while. There were rumors before, but they were all based on rumors. He even heard about his son being with a high school girl during this period. Isn't it just that the son is famous? Is anyone trying to gain some connections? Because of the neighbor relationship, he will not look down on Jo Ran Ran. But if Jo Ran Ran was asked to be his daughter-in-law, he would have 10,000 objections. He has a criminal record and has not yet gone to college. How can he compare to Zhang Yuling? Your son admitted it himself, how can he be wrong? Isn't that your son? Li Wanhee retorted angrily. That's not necessarily true. Our old Zhou family doesn't have this kind of blood anyway. As for whether your old Li family has it, I don't know yet. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 258. Phew, Nvidia finally stopped. Li Yuan looked at Nvidia's market, which fell by 3 points today. In fact, Nvidia has not risen much from 2 weeks ago to now. After the market value exceeded $300 billion, it was almost in a sideways stage, rising 6 or 7 points in half a month. But a slight increase can be considered an increase. The first drop today means that someone is distributing chips on a large scale. It can be regarded as another step to refine the previous funds. Funds that are afraid will run away at this time, and funds that see opportunities are willing to enter at this time. The fact that large funds are willing to invest means that there will be another wave in the future. The height of this wave cannot be determined by Li Yuan, but he is looking forward to it. The Nvidia shares held by Qingtian Capital are already worth more than $50 billion. This is such awesome data. What Li Yuan was waiting for was the first yen signal. They wanted to trade sideways for a while, distribute chips, and wait for the next wave to come. But Li Yuan didn't want them to get what they wanted. Once they finish distributing chips, many large funds on the market will enter the game, and the few chips in their hands will be of no use at all. This is the best position now. They just started distributing. Overall, they did not throw out many chips. Only in this way can the chips in their hands be maximized. Smash it? He stayed in the trading room for 3 or 4 hours. After completing today's trading, he returned to Chenji. There was still some time before the market closed. After opening his account, he directly invested $1 billion in chips from Nvidia. It had been rising slowly from 3 points underwater, and the trading volume had also broken through. Today, the trading volume is almost $1 billion. However, As Li Yuan's billion-dollar bargaining chips fell, the entire stock price immediately became unsustainable and the stock price was smashed. No one dares to spend $1 billion to take over the chips at once, and the entry of large funds also requires a game process. Today, Nvidia has opened its mouth, and big funds will only test it out first. It is impossible to get in just when others have opened their mouth. The risks have not been eliminated, and the expectations above have not yet been opened. If you enter the market in a hurry, you will be cut off too easily. Li Yuan only made a transaction of $300 million, and the stock price crashed to the floor, falling by a full 11 points. Isn't Nvidia going to wash its hands? Wash them yourself. Don't you just want to slowly reach an agreement with other big funds? Those big funds definitely want cheap chips, give them yourself. Li Yuan just hung his chips at this place. It was enough to hit this position, and others were welcome to come in and take over. The next day, Li Yuan went to the trading room by himself, but he had already asked Chen Ji to help him with the operation. So as soon as the market opened, Nvidia dropped 10 points again, and Li Yuan's $800 million in chips was there to suppress all the funds that wanted to enter the market. Yesterday, his $1 billion in chips were eaten away by $700 million. It shows that there are a lot of big funds eager to try, and there are only so many trial funds in the first batch. During this period, Nvidia's positive news has been frequent, and various data have made people excited. A market value of just $300 billion. What a bargain! A company as awesome as Nvidia should have a market value of over $1 trillion. There is also 17% restricted stock assistance from Qingtian Capital, and there is a lot of room for the stock price to rise. At 5:30 in the morning, US stocks closed. Li Yuan was busy all night, and the bad market rebounded a little today. He earned $80 million, which was equal to the income of the previous 3 or 4 days. On Nvidia's side, another $600 million in chips was traded, but no funds could break through his blockade. Nvidia has fallen sharply for 2 consecutive days, and the funds that entered the market yesterday were lost. They can take over. As long as the upper space is open and future expectations exist, investing tens or hundreds of millions of dollars is absolutely fine. But what is the situation now? Did the main force take them for granted? I thought your girlfriend was pretty, but she slept with you the day before yesterday and didn't take any safety measures, so there was a risk of pregnancy. But your girlfriend is as beautiful as a flower, and a big boss feels that the benefits outweigh the risks, so he can take over. It turns out that you just brought the girl home and spent a lot of money on the introduction, but your girlfriend was immediately diagnosed with a lot of STDs. And there are big pustules all over the places that are usually covered by clothes. How can the boss keep talking about this? The big guys are willing to take the risk of your girlfriend being pregnant with your child, and now you still want to kill the big guys and their entire family. How much does it cost to cure those diseases? How much of your girlfriend's appearance can be retained after treatment? The most important point is that the price offered is too expensive, old man. The boss didn't have the word taken advantage of written on his forehead. After falling sharply for 2 consecutive days, who can withstand it? So after the market opened on Wednesday, the entire Nvidia deal was gone. Li Yuan once again spent a lot of chips and went out, and then placed his chips at a dozen points underwater. He is equivalent to an agency fee. Anyone who wants to take over this beautiful little girlfriend must pay him first. No money? Then you just deserve to watch. For the boss who had already paid a deposit and was ready to take his little girlfriend home, this scene was really disgusting. Inexplicably, I lost 20 or 30 points, and I didn't even get my girlfriend's hand. It is equivalent to finding out that you have been infected with an infectious disease before you even take it into your mouth. Grass. If you don't give any benefits, you will cut them alive. No matter how rich the bosses are, they can't bear to do this. People like Vanguard Capital, BlackRock, and Morgan looked livid when they looked at the market. It's not that they don't want to kill this agency, they want to find some successors for their little girlfriends more than anyone else. But that damn agent had hard information about his little girlfriend and offered a sky-high price. They didn't want to buy it. I'm not sure how much money I can make at Nvidia. It's $1 to $2 billion US dollars, and it's us $30 to $50 billion. After all, it is now a state of equal division between the two sides, and the state of making money is like Schrodinger's cat. You will never know whether you will make a profit or lose until the end. As a result, that hateful intermediary will take away tens of billions of dollars in profits. I thought that the vicious wife who had bribed the cheating agent had locked up the powerful information in his hands and could not get it out in a short time. They want to take advantage of this stage to find a rich successor to their little girlfriend. Money was made, the blame was thrown out, and the bad information in the hands of that bastard intermediary had no effect on them. But I never expected that guy would actually have. He had already put on a vest and backed up some of the explosive information. When they were negotiating the price with some big guys who were willing to take over, they were able to release the explosive information bit by bit. They were sure that Li Yuan was the one who smashed the market for 3 consecutive days, and there could be no one else. However, there is currently a lack of evidence. Li Yuan used a sum of black money. It is impossible to lock him into selling chips, nor can it be used as evidence to unplug his network cable. Otherwise, they would have charged Li Yuan with manipulating the stock market and requested his extradition to the United States. Although China currently does not have an extradition treaty with the United States, they can find other countries as a transit. If we don't take over the chips from Qingtian Capital, Li Yuan will definitely continue to hit the market. Today, the confidence in the market capital is almost gone. If this continues, a girlfriend who is sick and covered in pustules will have to be smashed into the hands, and no one will be willing to take over. Someone expressed a different opinion and said, "That guy doesn't have many chips in his hand, we can just eat these." Someone immediately said, "What if he offers 5 billion or even 10 billion US dollars in chips? How much money do we need to use to eat it? There is not much time left for us. The sun is going to set soon, and the burden on us is getting bigger and bigger. The heavier we are, the more dangerous we are." This is where Wall Street struggles. No matter which party it is, no one dares to take it lightly. On the first day, they also felt that Li Yuan would not have too many chips. On the second day they felt that there would definitely be no more. On the third day. It was already the third day, and Li Yuan took out such a large amount of chips again in an understatement. Should he still pray that today is all his chips? If you continue to gamble, all other funds will be lost. Nvidia can only rot in their hands. This does not mean that Nvidia itself is a rubbish company. It is actually that they have too many chips in their hands, and a bunch of chips will be released in 4 months. Currently, there are only 2 ways to solve this matter. The first is to use a sum of money to acquire the chips that Li Yuan threw. The funds used will most likely be between $5 billion and $10 billion, and it is unlikely to exceed $10 billion. After all, there are only 5 points of circulating shares on the market, and if they are full, based on the current stock price, they are worth $13 billion. Can Li Yuan take them all? Second, we acquired 17% of Qingtian Capital's shares. Since Li Yuan had no appeal, he would naturally not continue to trick them. However, this requires more money. Based on the current market value, 17% of the stocks are worth at least $38 billion. This amount of money is so much that even the top financial capitals in the world are a little scared. They finally decided to contact Li Yuan first and ask him how much money he wanted. The first type of price-performance ratio is really too low, and if you use the first type, you lose flexibility. All the stocks are in their hands. How long does it take to distribute them before they find a takeover? There isn't much time left for them. The second method is more useful, as long as Qingtian Capital is willing to discount. After all, taking 17% of the chips from Qingtian Capital means that there is no need to prepare for the lifting of the ban in a few months, and the trading cycle can be lengthened. They are so good at this kind of work. However, Li Yuan's call did not get through. This guy must be operating in a dark corner. He is like a rat in the sewer. He only dares to sneak around. Some people have already imagined Li Yuan's scene at this time. It's really disgusting. If they were not responsible for the funds, they would never talk to Li Yuan. But now tens of billions of dollars have been invested, and it will be too late if we don't take action. As for Redneck Capital, they are just a bunch of country people who have never seen the market, and they are not expected to be useful at all. And now is an opportunity to regain control. Since you have no choice, then cut off the Redneck Capital. As long as they can win the stocks from Qingtian Capital, they have the ability to make the money invested by Redneck Capital go down the drain. It's easy to dilute the chips in their hands. There are still 30% now. In less than 2 years, they will be diluted to 10%. When they actually eat meat, they will not be taken. Isn't it easy to dilute your shares? As long as they take the initiative, any operation can be carried out and no one can resist. Finally, the phone rang at Prime Capital's office. Yao Yingsong answered the phone. When he heard that the other party was Pioneer Capital and wanted to negotiate with Qingtian Capital to transfer Nvidia shares, he was confused. Does anyone really want this thing? Not only him, but even the researchers from the big national funds analyzed the situation and concluded that those stocks did not have much value and were just good looking on the books. After all, Nvidia has risen to this point just to target Qingtian Capital. How can it be possible for Qingtian Capital to exit smoothly? And Yao Yingsong also got a number from Pioneer Capital. $13 billion, they are willing to ask for it. This price means that Qingtian Capital can make a huge profit of more than $3 billion US. Suddenly the pie of happiness is stuffed into your mouth. Not to mention us $13 billion, according to the data given by the National Fund. If someone can offer us $6 billion, they will risk losing us $2.3 billion and be willing to sell it to avoid being tortured later. He didn't understand why the situation had reversed. But he didn't agree because he couldn't make the decision. Waiting and waiting, finally at 5:30 in the morning, the door of the trading room opened. Li Yuan walked out smiling and chatting with the trader. Judging from everyone's expressions, it seemed that today was not bad. Yao Yingsong is quite satisfied with the current situation. Even if he sometimes makes millions of dollars in profit in a whole day, he is still steady. Even in such a bad market, Li Yuan can still make money. This is his skill. I am still young and have plenty of time to wait. Li Yuan's thighs are very thick. He first arranged supper for the traders, and then said to Li Yuan, "Boss, Pioneer Capital just called and said it wanted to discuss Nvidia stock with you." "Huh? How much do they pay?" Li Yuan gang was about to leave, but stopped when he heard these words. "They made an offer of $13 billion, what do you think?" Li Yuan shook his head when he heard this. Not so good, $13 billion US, how about sending beggars? I won't call you back, you talk to them, $26 billion US upwards, lower than this price no need to talk. Li Yuan left after finishing speaking. He is not in a hurry now, he still has plenty of chips in his hand. After 3 days, only 1/3 of the goods were shipped. A little more. Now that they have decided to take the chips in their hands, there is a high probability that they will not make super returns in the short term, and the chips in their hands are worthless. Long term? It makes no sense to be a long-term investor in the US stock market. Seeing Li Yuan's confident look, Yao Yingsong suddenly realized that Li Yuan seemed to have known that such a scene would happen. Maybe others are unwilling to negotiate the price, but someone forces them to negotiate the price. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 259. Yao Yingsong is very aware of the strength of those foreign giants. It is an insult to use uncompromising means to describe those foreign capital giants. No matter how unscrupulous he is still a human being. But which of the things those capital giants have done over the years can be done by humans? They are not nice gentlemen. It is considered a waste for them to eat people alive, and they are looked down upon in the industry by knocking their bones and sucking their marrow. It seems like a regular cooperation, but considering the identities of both parties, it becomes unusual. Anyway, no one in China can make Wall Street change its mind. There are almost no viable companies they want to target. An impossible thing seemed so insignificant in Li Yuan's eyes. It could even be seen from his expression that he had expected this day. This time the game is not a draw. Li Yuan is still increasing the price, which shows that he still has bargaining chips. And Wall Street is anxious, which means they have no chips in their hands. He can crush Wall Street and still be several steps ahead. Yao Yingsong can only do one thing in this kind of game. Shout 6. There is no doubt that Li Yuan has given him another credit. As long as he can negotiate smoothly, his signature will definitely be left on this achievement. After Li Yuan went back, he ate something and planned to sit on the sofa for a while before going to bed. At around 7 o'clock, the phone rang. Li Yuan answered the phone. It's great that Mr. Li Yuan can answer the phone. I know you stayed up all night in China. It's rude to call at this time, but I do have something to talk to you about. I hope you can understand. Li Yuan smiled and said, of course, after all, we are all workers. It's just for work. This is nothing. The other party could not accurately understand the meaning of Li Yuan's words. After all, the grammar between the two parties was different. Yes, it's great that you understand. I hope we can have a good talk about Nvidia stock and give each other a chance. Li Yuan, no problem, you should know my quotation, right? Mr. Li Yuan, I don't think a subordinate's quotation can represent your intentions. A subordinate is not qualified to make decisions for the boss at any time. The meaning of this was obvious. They couldn't accept Yao Yingsong's offer, otherwise they wouldn't have called Li Yuan specifically. Li Yuan did not dwell on this point, but asked, then what price do you think is appropriate? Based on today's closing price, 17% of Nvidia's shares have a market value of more than $38 billion. Parity is almost impossible. After all, if they were willing to parity, they would have used their funds to gain leverage in the market. To put it bluntly, during the entire process, Li Yuan violated the rules halfway through, and they properly violated the regulations throughout the whole process. What bullshit rules don't exist at all. They can operate however they want. Meetings between different institutions are held every day. If nothing happens, the backend data will be checked and every position held by Qingtian Capital will be clearly calculated. You won't win without any means. We can give you $13 billion, and at the same time, we can take on your extra chips at the closing price. I can assure you that Nvidia will not have a good market in the future, and it will have to drop by at least 40%. The above prices will not be the same in the next few years. Li Yuan, Mr. Rich, I know you are very upset because of a sum of money, but that sum of money really has nothing to do with me, and I am not the one operating the business. Li Yuan never admitted that he had another amount of funds involved in trading, but he did not explain it the last time the two parties communicated. Now maybe the other party has recorded it? If I don't reiterate it, don't get him an unfounded charge. This kind of thing, which is enough to be notorious in China for thousands of years, is too common in the United States. They can detain people without evidence. Even if they are not in the United States, they will ask for local arrest and then extradition. No matter what China does, it always pays attention to the principle of learning from others. Mr. Li Yuan, you are already very powerful. You defeated us with just 2 accounts. If you have the opportunity to come to Wall Street, I believe you will become our most important guest. I don't want to reiterate it for the 3rd time, I just have 1 account. If you insist on this, then we have nothing to talk about. Good luck to you. When the other party heard Li Yuan's tone, he hurriedly said, okay, we won't talk about this topic. Do you think the quotation we gave is sincere enough? It's very insincere. I will not give my profits to others, and I will not negotiate prices for others. So, you only need to consider the stocks of Qingtian Capital, and other stocks are not within the scope of our discussion. What about your psychological price point? $30 billion US, I'll give you a 30% discount. 30% off? Sir, this is 20% off. Mr. Rich, we have to calculate it based on the landing price. From $300 US to $382 US, isn't it an increase of 30%? Richie. This dead memory. It reminded him of the days when he was doing questions in college. Even if he was a top student, those language traps gave him a headache. But if you think about it carefully, what is the point of discussing this matter? $30 billion. It's impossible for them to do it, only a fool would do it. Mr. Li Yuan, let's renegotiate a sincere price. Okay, I can still reduce it, but I hope Mr. Rich can understand that the discount I'm talking about is based on the landing price, because this is my calculation habit. Yes, I understand. Richie really didn't want to have to deal with this crap. No matter what basis he discounted it on, the price was too high and he wouldn't take it at all. Li Yuan said, then I will tell you my bottom line price, 40% off. Mr. Li Yuan, your price is really not sincere at all. We are only willing to pay up to $13.5 billion US. The extra $500 million US is because we want to make friends with you. 40% off? What a joke. According to Li Yuan's calculation, a 40% discount would require more than $27 billion. They can't even come up with $17 billion. No one in the world is willing to pay more than $17 billion to buy a restricted stock. Li Yuan said, then I can only say sorry. It's time for me to take a rest. During this period, I hope both of us can think about it carefully. Li Yuan hung up the phone. This kind of thing cannot be negotiated at once. Moreover, with only 2 parties negotiating together, the bargaining space is too low. Even if he offers a 50% discount, you should still disagree. He immediately called Yao Yingsong and said, Manager Yao, I will give you a contact information. You go and contact the other party and tell us that Pioneer Capital is talking to us about Nvidia stock and the other party is ready to take it from us at a 40% discount all the chips. Okay, I'll do it right away. Li Yuan continued to explain, remember to analyze with them what Pioneer Capital may do after acquiring the shares, such as additional issuance and stock split. Let me emphasize that Pioneer Capital already holds more than 33% of Nvidia shares. As long as you take the shares of Qingtian Capital, you can exceed 51% in one fell swoop. After you finish talking, tell me the price they can give me. Good. Chen Ji, who was on the side, waited for Li Yuan to hang up the phone, and then said, you want to set up Pioneer Capital. The discount you told Pioneer Capital naturally has a coefficient, but when explaining to Yao Yingsong, you did not emphasize that coefficient. Really? They're all the same, right? There's no difference. Chen Ji smiled and said, the difference is huge. Based on the current market value of $38.2 billion, a 50% discount would be $19.1 billion. If we follow the logic you told Pioneer Capital, which is $25.5 billion. Huh? I'm not very good at mental arithmetic. Is there such a big difference? Well, if it's a 40% discount, one is $15.3 billion and the other is $23.9 billion. Li Yuan. He really only knew a rough idea, but Chen Ji could figure it out. Awesome. I'm going to bed first. I'll leave my phone outside. If Yao Yingsong calls, please answer it. Okay. Chen Ji watched Li Yuan go to the bedroom. He was just a little disappointed because Li Yuan forgot one thing. For Redneck Capital, the current situation is very difficult. After they learned from Vanguard Capital and BlackRock that the stock was sold to them by Prime Capital, they understood why it was so cheap. Let them take the bait first and force them to buy the stocks held by Qingtian Capital at a high price. The price of the same goods is definitely different. Although they are enemies with Vanguard and BlackRock, they will not let China Capital make money in the American market. Therefore, after many discussions, they gave up the idea of controlling the market and decided to join forces to prevent China Capital from succeeding. But now, something suddenly happened midway. Neither party is willing to invest any more money. If there is no solution when the market opens today, the market will completely lose the possibility of short-term cash out. In the long run, with the lifting of the stock ban in the hands of Qingtian Capital, the situation will be even worse. They are restless. If I had known earlier, I would have taken the bargaining chip from Optimus Capital, directly controlled Nvidia, and kicked out Pioneer and BlackRock, or at most allowed them to drink some soup. This situation now has exceeded expectations. They never imagined that with this level of control, there would still be people holding so many chips. At this moment, Yao Yingsong called. When they heard that Pioneer Capital wanted to take away the shares of Qingtian Capital at a 40% discount, they realized the problem. Of course they knew about the additional issuance and splitting of shares. What Yao Yingsong said only deepened their sense of crisis. Even if they didn't say it, they knew what those people were going to do. Otherwise, who would take a high-level controlling stake for no reason? It's not like there's only one bookmaker. 40% off? The other party did not say how much it would cost, but simply said that Pioneer Capital was willing to take it at a 40% discount. It must be based on the closing price. After all, this is a subconscious concept. Only $15.3 billion is needed. This price is neither high nor low. Compared with the current stock price of Nvidia, it is really nothing. Nvidia's current market capitalization is only $240 billion. It has dropped more than 20 points in 3 days, from $311 billion to now. They held an emergency meeting, and at the meeting, almost everyone made a decision to get the bargaining chip ahead of Pioneer Capital. Nvidia already has the foundation. They may not necessarily be able to do better than Pioneer and BlackRock, but at least they will not lose money. If they were allowed to hold a controlling stake, all the capital chips on their side would be mired in quagmire. If they could not spend money in the short term, the cost of using the funds alone would be an astronomical figure. Their investment is not small, and the total investment is almost $30 billion. Qingtian Capital's chips are very cheap, at least more cost-effective than the total chips they currently have. In the middle of the night in the beautiful country, they called Yao Yingsong again. After getting a reply, he could prepare funds first, and he would notify Li Yuan when he woke up. Redneck Capital accepted this rhetoric. It's just that within Redneck Capital, there will inevitably be some traders. In other words, there were no traders originally, but after working with Pioneer BlackRock, there were traders. Rich learned the news late at night. It's unclear how much funding Redneck Capital has prepared. But the spies they arranged found out a certain number, 40% off. Rich calculated it, and he didn't forget Li Yuan's damn algorithm. After finishing the calculation, he cursed, "Crazy. They are crazy. They dare to ask for more than 20 billion US dollars. This number may not be true, even a fool would not accept it at a discount of 40%. Go and confirm the news again." He ordered someone to contact the spy again. After all, the spies that can be installed are definitely not the top level of redneck capital. Those top levels have their own interest groups and will not easily become traitors. Half an hour later, Rich received a recording of the meeting. It was made very clear in the recording that Qingtian Capital used Pioneer Capital as an excuse, saying that Pioneer Capital was willing to acquire it at a 40% discount. "Damn bastard, there is nothing wrong with my mind, how could I accept the damn 40% off? Even if it is 30% off, 20% off, under that damn algorithm, I will not agree. I will not agree to even 10% off. Under the premise of Li Yuan's floating benchmark, zero discount is equivalent to 50% off the fixed closing price benchmark. It's like buying a stock. After it drops 50%, the stock price needs to double to recover the capital." Richie started to panic. If those redneck capitals really take over the stocks from Qingtian Capital, things will get very bad. As for the so-called cooperation agreement, when there is profit, it is called cooperation. When there is no profit, who are you? When the two parties first cooperated, they did not want Qingtian Capital to have any dominance. But now, no one is willing to pay billions or even tens of billions of dollars. In order to have a short cash-out period of 4 months, the chips in the hands of Qingtian Capital have become something that can dominate the situation. Whoever gets it will have the right to speak in the next few years. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 260. There are not many people in the world who will always maintain the mentality that the overall situation trumps everything else. Without affecting one's own interests, a high-level stance is more important. For example, Li Yuan, if he is so poor that he can't even afford food, and someone recruits trolls to smear his country, he is willing to accept it. But he had eaten and drank enough, and when he saw the kind of trolls who were smearing his country, he decisively attacked him. These are human nature. Of course, for those with vested interests who are still smearing us, we can only say that they are born to be despicable. The same is true for Pioneer Capital at this time. There are interests behind the United States, and they must be safeguarded. When there is a conflict between safeguarding the United States and your own interests, who are you? Although Li Yuan is like an outside robber who has humiliated American capital time and again with his actions, but now that it has truly affected their own interests, they will naturally no longer think about sniping at Li Yuan. Even if Qingtian Capital offered a sky-high price, they would never let redneck capital succeed. After all, although the chips in their hands appear to be floating on the surface, they cannot actually sell them out in the short term. The original plan was to sell 1/3 of the price at the high level after trading sideways for 2 months, so that the capital would have been recovered. But now it's no longer possible. It's unclear how many chips Li Yuan still has, and there's no hope of the stock price rising. In the face of interests, there is no so-called position. As long as you can make money, there is nothing wrong with making deals with your enemies. So, they decisively called Li Yuan. But it didn't get through, so they had to do the next best thing and call Qingtian Capital. This time I got through, but unfortunately I didn't have the ability to make the decision, so I just asked them to give a quote. They knew that they could only discuss this matter with Li Yuan in person. When Li Yuan woke up, they stayed up all night. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Li Yuan woke up, he was told about this. Chen Ji said, "Pioneer Capital got a call in almost half an hour. Do you want to talk to them?" "Well, I still tend to sell it to them." "Why?" Because those redneck capitals are unlikely to succeed. As long as they don't cooperate with those consortiums, they can't even spend much money on these 17% stocks. I will stop after earning $4 to $5 billion US. To put it harshly, those guys are cowardly and have no ability to make money. Although the consortium like Vanguard Capital are also profiteers, they at least have the ability to make money and have the courage. Chen Ji wondered, in this case, you should cooperate with Redneck Capital. After all, Pioneer Capital will become your opponent in the future. Li Yuan smiled and said, yes, but such an enemy is better than a cowardly enemy. In the financial market, being cowardly means having no money. Let Pioneer Capital and the others make more money, so that they can have more money when they fight in the future. Have the confidence to fight with me. I let Redneck Capital make money this time, but it's useless to me. Those guys can't be friends either, and even the money they make may not stay in the financial market. Li Yuan's purpose of making money in the financial market is to subsidize the country. He needs opponents like Vanguard Capital. Without opponents, it will be very difficult to make short-term profits. When gambling on this thing, there is no one at the card table, so you can only play small games with the system. Not only is the risk high, but you also don't make any money. It's much easier to analyze a dozen opponents than countless possibilities. Sure enough, within 2 minutes, Pioneer Capital called. After Li Yuan spoke, Rich immediately said politely, Mr. Li Yuan, it's so kind to hear your voice. You know, we need to have a good talk now. Li Yuan said, I'm sorry, I think we have nothing to talk about, because I am very satisfied with the quotations given to us by other capitals, and I am ready to make a deal with them. No, 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 Mr. Li Yuan, the other party's offer is not sincere. It is far less sincere than our Pioneer Capital. Really? Someone else offered a 40% discount. We can do that too, and we can do the transaction right away. They were not in a hurry to get chips. If it drops a little today, the price will be even lower by then. But the problem is that they can't guarantee that Redneck Capital will stop. Time is not on their side, so they must race against time. Why didn't you say it earlier? If you said it earlier, I would give you 30% off. It's really too late now. I still know the rules. The price is the same and the time is priority. The other party agreed earlier, so, it's very sorry Mr. Rich, we will have opportunities to cooperate in the future. Li Yuan's words were a shot in the arm. With a 30% discount, they can save another $1 billion. No, 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 it's still late. Although we are a little late, our price can be higher. 41% off, how about it? Yao Yingsong didn't sleep. Now he was sitting in the office, drinking strong tea to suppress his sleepiness. He didn't have time to sort out the reports today because Li Yuan wanted to sell Nvidia shares. This hot potato was finally going to be sold, and he was going to wait for all the data to be settled before sorting out the reports. After all, the previous data were indeed nothing eye-catching, and Li Yuan was more Buddhist during this period. He believes that his leaders will be excited when they see Nvidia's stock being sold. As for price negotiation, he gradually lost the opportunity to negotiate price. After all, Li Yuan's goals were too high. When he first talked with Pioneer Capital, the other party directly called him a madman. Even though Li Yuan said later that he could sell it at a 40% discount, he felt the price was outrageous. How much is 40% off? $15.3 billion. A stock that was destined to lose money could one day make billions of dollars. Even if there is a 30% discount, he thinks it is good, everyone will be satisfied, and his own leaders will be happy. When Li Yuan first asked him to negotiate for $26 billion US, he knew in his heart that the negotiation would definitely not work out. He just thanked Li Yuan for giving him a chance to participate. At the same time, in the workplace, he should not talk about something before it is done. Just express your opinion and deny the boss's decision. That is extremely irresponsible. His phone rang. After seeing that it was the leader calling, he answered the call immediately. "Leader, what do you want from me?" "Xiao Yao, did you not send the report today?" "Well, there is still some data here that has not been sorted out. I want to wait until it is sorted out before sending it over." "Oh, okay, how long will it take for you to sort it out?" This, I'm not very clear either. He really didn't know when Li Yuan's talks would be finished. "Okay, I'm just asking. After all, today is a little different from usual. I get up every day and want to take a look at the report. Yes, I will be more punctual from now on." He didn't say anything about trading stocks. After all, the transaction hasn't been successful yet, and no one knows what kind of surprises will happen. If the transaction fails to succeed, it will only make the leader's expectations in vain and ultimately fail. Just after hanging up the phone, he received a call from Li Yuan. "Manager Yao, get ready, sign a contract with Pioneer Capital, and sell to them at a 33% discount based on yesterday's closing price." Yao Yingsong didn't react at first. 30% off? Isn't it 40% off? There is a difference of 6 to 7 billion US dollars. "Boss, are they all the chips?" $24 billion. "Well, after you get it, remember to repay the leveraged funds as soon as possible." "Okay, okay." Yao Yingsong felt a little confused. Li Yuan actually sold those stocks for a sky-high price of 24 billion US dollars. Was he not joking when he initially set himself a price of $26 billion? If you have the ability, can you do it? How else to explain that he can sell for 24 billion US dollars? He is not a professional negotiator, but Yao Yingsong himself is considered a professional in this regard. It's just that he couldn't understand how Li Yuan operated. Pioneer Capital's initial quotation was only $13 billion, and asked them to increase it to $24 billion? Li Yuan didn't seem to do anything during the process, right? Are the people at Vanguard Capital confused? The price increase is not that outrageous. He immediately called Pioneer Capital to confirm the final amount. A little over $24 billion. What followed was busy with various contracts. After all, Pioneer Capital was not signing with one entity. Otherwise, all the stocks will be in the name of a certain entity, and it will be inconvenient to reduce holdings in the future. It took more than an hour of busy work before all the contracts were finalized. Financial transactions no longer require face-to-face contract signing, even if the amount is relatively high. Looking at the $24 billion that had arrived, he still felt unreal. $8.3 billion in leveraged funds need to be repaid, leaving $15.7 billion remaining. Of this money, there is only a principal of $1 billion. In addition to the hundreds of millions of dollars that Li Yuan earned during this period, it means that Li Yuan earned more than $15 billion in 3 months. It's completely ready for liquidation. He made a call to Li Yuan. On the one hand, he reported on the progress of the work, and on the other hand, he asked whether he wanted to liquidate. Li Yuan quickly replied, "I won't liquidate for the time being. Let's give it another month. After the liquidation, I need to take a break for 3 or 4 months. Please tell your leader." "Okay." Yao Yingsong knew that Li Yuan was going to have a child soon, so it was normal to take a few months rest. Now he just wants to finish the report as soon as possible. After all, it is already past 5 o'clock and the leader is about to get off work. Office of the National Fund. Recently, the overall business has been quite stretched. They are not only cooperating with Li Yuan, but also other people. Isn't this Vanguard Capital's fund manager capable of managing tens of billions of funds? Why are the recent data so ugly? Over the past 6 months, 5 billion funds have been lost by 30%. Even if the market is not going well recently, what about your personal ability? It's not like stocks are not going up. Can't you learn from Li Yuan? Even if you don't have one, you can make one with your own strength. They were a little depressed. This project was jointly proposed by a group of them, but the results were extremely poor. If it weren't for the monster Li Yuan, they would have to step down next year. There are more than one. In addition to Li Yuan, they have also invested in 5 or 6 companies. So far, they have lost at least nearly 20 points. There are domestic funds and DI funds. Li Yuan was wreaking havoc in foreign markets, and they were delivering food to foreign markets. Almost losing 10 billion. The money from the big national funds cannot afford such losses. Someone said, "Lao Yang, don't worry. Li Yuan was about to lose tens of billions of dollars before, didn't you still want to raise money for him? How much is the loss now? Why can't you make up your mind?" He immediately retorted, "Can Li Yuan be the same? He earns so much, no matter how much he pays, he doesn't feel bad. But those guys are nothing, they all have great names, they are the youngest tens of billions fund in mainland China, the first wave of gods, everyone is bullshitting, and the market almost stalled. What's wrong? You still want to have a bull market every day? If that's the case, we can make money ourselves, do we need them? When a large national fund cooperates with them, it can be regarded as endorsing them. This is a two-way payment. But the result is not optimistic. Investment itself is risky, otherwise we wouldn't have adopted all conservative investments before. If there hadn't been a gap in funds in various aspects, we wouldn't have taken risks. Now that we have decided to take risks, we have to bear these. The main reason is that Li Yuan has been targeted too hard and his performance is somewhat unsatisfactory. I originally thought they could help and at least make the data of this project better this year. Waiting for next year, Li Yuan will definitely be able to perform well. If this year's data is comprehensive, if we lose money, it's unclear whether this project will still exist next year. There shouldn't be a big problem. Li Yuan earned us too much last year, and the superiors will allow us to make a few mistakes this year. If it hadn't been for Li Yuan last year, and it had been the same situation in the first half of this year, the project would have been cancelled directly. Yao Yingsong has also had problems with his thinking recently. He has started to slack off at work and has not yet sent the report. At least, Qingtian Capital can still see some profit data. Looking at these loss reports all day long will save me 10 years of life. Well, it's really outrageous. I'm afraid it was easy to make money when I was around Li Yuan before, but now I see the income is mediocre, which breeds laziness. They will definitely not criticize Yao Yingsong for this trivial matter. After all, Yao Yingsong is a popular person around Li Yuan. But it does not prevent Yao Yingsong from judging some small things. At this time, the printer began to automatically print the file. Someone walked over, picked it up, took a look, and immediately said, "Yao Yingsong sent the report from Qingtian Capital." Everyone immediately rushed forward. They also knew the difficulties faced by Qingtian Capital at this time, so they just turned to the last page and took a brief look at the earnings. But when they reached the end, they were confused. Because today's gains are outrageous. The loss was more than 40 points, and the loss amount reached $16 billion. Losing $16 billion in one day? Qingtian Capital is liquidated? Didn't Nvidia just drop 10 points? Their minds were buzzing. Start scrolling forward immediately to see what's going on.